Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premiere Networks on Sunday, December 4th, 2022. This is episode 1950. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by IT Pro from ACI Learning. IT Pro TV is now IT Pro from ACI Learning. Join a community of IT learners who access more than 6,800 hours of IT skills and training courses to better themselves, their organizations, and their careers. Get 30% off when you sign up at itpro.tv/twit. Don't forget to use that offer code TWIT30 at checkout. And by Mimo Monitors, the global leader and industry expert in award-winning small format displays, touchscreens, and tablets. And don't forget to try Unify for all your video conferencing needs. Visit unifymeeting.com and enter the code TechGuy50 for 50% off a year's subscription, or use the code TechGuy and get 25% off any of Mimo's displays. Limited time offer. And by OnLogic. OnLogic is helping innovators around the world solve their most complex technology challenges using OnLogic industrial computers engineered for reliability, even in environments that would challenge or destroy traditional computer hardware. Learn more and find out about OnLogic's 30-day risk-free hardware trial by visiting onlogic.com/twit. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here. I am the tech guy, and that means, well, it's time to talk tech. Computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, augmented reality, virtual reality, real reality, and computers that are starting to think. Artificial intelligence. 8888 Ask Leo is the number. Use your real intelligence to dial that. 888-827-5536. Toll free in the U.S. or Canada. Really toll free worldwide, except that outside the U.S. or Canada, you'll have to use Skype out or some computer thing that will let you call a phone number. And because it's a free number, shouldn't cost you anything. 8888 Ask Leo. There is a website. Of course there is. What kind of tech guy would I be without a website? I'm thinking about 2004 when I started this. The website was a little bit different. You could probably find it if you looked on the Internet Archive, the Wayback Machine. It was a wiki. See, my idea in the early days was, we'll just let all the listeners edit the website so I don't have to. I put in the initial stuff, and then it didn't work. Eventually, I had to shut it down to the public because it was just filled with spam. Oh, those spammers. Yes, even 19 years ago, spam was a problem. Yes. So I just, I made it a wiki that only I could edit, and eventually we moved on to better and nicer things. And now we're on a fancy system that's far too complicated to explain at techguylabs.com. But it's funny, ironically, there is an irony to this because you may remember there was an old techguylabs.com, looked completely different. It was running on this fancy system called Drupal, the system with a weird name Drupal. And we had to shut it down about, 3 or 4 months ago because Drupal was out of date and it was going to cost too much to fix it. See, if I'd still been on the wiki, I could have fixed it myself. It would be still the same site. But no, now, this is what happens. You get the experts in, and the experts have to do it, and the experts are expensive. And when they quoted us $250,000 to fix the site, we decided, yikes. That's what we decided. No! And so we took that site down and merged it into the other site that's still going to cost more than, I think we got it down to $180,000 to update. But it will be updated. It has to be for security reasons. So techguylabs.com now goes to the podcast site, twit.tv. We're still running that. You will see all the shows. This is episode 1950. What will you see there? Well, it's a little less rich in features because we had to close the old site down. But what we try to give you all the information. So all the links to things I mentioned will be in there. We'll also put, it takes us a little while, a transcript of the show up there with little time code so you can jump to that portion of the show. And we put audio and video of the show up there as well, the podcast versions. So I think that's a pretty complete record of what happened today. Episode 1950. There you go. It's all there. That's a long way of explaining it. No, there's no charge. That's why, honestly, that's why if I had been charging you, I could have done this. This is what happens. In the early days of the internet, it was simple. An individual could kind of just do it. But the experts got involved. It got more and more complicated. Now we have, expensive, hard to maintain, but much more capable. Okay, I'll give you that. Much more capable sites. Of course, one of the things that's changed over time is tech companies now are global, right? Started kind of in the U.S., but it's become global. The internet anyway. And as a result, companies like Apple, I'll single them out, do a lot of their manufacturing overseas. Well, in fact, let's be honest, Apple does almost all of its manufacturing in China. In fact, half of all iPhones are made in a place called iPhone City. Foxconn is the company that makes it. It's an assembler. So they put it together. But all the bits and pieces are also made in China. In fact, that's why iPhone City, it's in Zhengzhou, China, iPhone City is in China because it's just a short piece down the road from the company that makes the screen, that makes the accelerometer, that makes the chip, that does the doohickey, that does the thing, that does the button maker. All of them live just down the road, and they make them, and then they put them in a truck, I guess, and they drive it over to the iPhone City, and then very dexterous people with some very helpful machines assemble this thing. Apple's been doing it that way for a long time, since the iPhone pretty much started. In fact, it's Tim Cook, the current CEO of Apple, who put this all together. They called him the supply chain wizard. He figured out how to do all of this, interestingly, in a fashion that's now very modern called just in time. So everybody does this now. Ford makes their cars this way. Everybody does this. They order the parts, but they don't warehouse them. They have them arrive just in time to make the phone. So it's this conveyor belt. That's why there was these supply chain issues, because one little thing stops, the whole thing stops, right? The company that makes the seat warmers in your BMW, that chip that drives the seat warmers, and it is a chip, if they can't get that chip, well, you can't get the seat warmers, and BMW can't make the car. In fact, they shipped a bunch of cars last year without seat warmers because it was the only way they could put them out. Well, you've probably seen this. There's quite a bit of unrest in China right now over their zero COVID policy. People have been locked in. In the early days of COVID, I remember stories of them welding the doors to apartment buildings shut. Nobody can get out. You stay in there with your sickness, and there's probably reasons for this. The vaccine they use in China is half as effective as the one we use here, but for reasons of national pride, there's two words that always end poorly. For reasons of national pride, they don't want to use the Western vaccines. Plus, they've had a pretty poor record, I hear, of vaccinating older people who are, of course, more vulnerable to COVID. So anyway, that's why they did the COVID zero policy. They locked it all down. But people don't like it. After a while, after a couple of years, it's like, come on, let me out of here. We're starving. We don't have enough water. And it's even worse in the iPhone City because the workers live in the factory, and it's just it looks like terrible conditions. Plus, in order to get more people to work in iPhone City, Foxconn, the company, offered them all big bonuses, $1,400, which is like a couple of months' wages, and then didn't pay it. Well, that led to strikes. Apple now is kind of get some egg on its face. They say about iPhone production will be cut 40%. 40% this month because they can't crank them out. So finally, Apple, they've been slowly moving to, well, maybe we should have some other factories. We got Foxconn built a factory in Brazil. They built one in India. They're building a factory in Vietnam. They're building factories in the U.S. My wife asked a good question. She said, well, why don't we make them in the U.S. anyway? And I said, well, honey, you just don't understand. No, I didn't say it like that. I hope I didn't. Honey, you just don't understand. They've got all these other factories in China. They don't want to drive the trucks, just go into the factory and they make the things, and it's faster that way. And plus, Apple's invested huge amount of money into Foxconn. And one of the reasons, for instance, you get inexpensive and very sophisticated drones. You notice drones just took off all of a sudden. It's because Apple built these machines and Foxconn created these technologies to build really tiny miniaturized parts that it turns out not only are good in an iPhone, they're good in other things like drones. So most of your drones are made there too. And you can't just say, well, we're going to take it all to the U.S., or could you? Apple, according to the Wall Street Journal, has accelerated plans to shift its production out of China. It's telling suppliers to plan more actively for assembling Apple products elsewhere in Asia, particularly India and Vietnam, looking to reduce dependence on mainland China companies. But, Foxconn is owned by Taiwan. There's also some concern that China may at some point embrace Taiwan. Then there's this turmoil at iPhone City. I said the wrong number, 85%, according to the journal. 85% of the iPhones, the current iPhones, are made there. Why don't they just move them here? That's maybe a naive point of view? Here's the question. And by the way, I've seen research that says it wouldn't cost that much more. But obviously, you pay an American worker a heck of a lot more than you do a Chinese worker, right? And then they want things like lunch breaks. They don't want to live in the factory. They want to go home. All of that means it's more expensive. How much would you be willing to pay? How much more for an iPhone? Already expensive, right? Already, $1,000. Would you be willing to pay $1,200 for an iPhone if it was made in the U.S.? $1,500? Actually, the studies I've seen say it might be more than like $50. But the problem is, it's $50 to make it for Apple, but then Apple's got to tack on and So it would end up maybe, I don't know, being, let's say $100, $200 more. Would you pay $100 more for your iPhone, knowing that it was built in the good old USA? 8888, I don't know. I would, I guess. 8880. I can never stop in the middle of the phone number. I'll never get it out. 8888, ask Leo. That's the phone number. Let's talk tech. Sam Abuelsamid, Car Guy, coming up too. You stay here. How much more does a Fender guitar made here? That's an interesting question. So Fender makes guitars here and there. How much more would a Fender cost? It's about double? Yeah, or are they making them in Mexico? It's twice as much in the U.S. than a Mexican version? That's markup. That's Fender saying, well, we got them now. Put that American flag on there. Wow. There's also, there's not as many workers. I didn't mention that, but there's hundreds of thousands of people. They think maybe as many as 300,000 workers at iPhone City. Where would you go in the U.S. to get 300,000 low-wage assembly workers? Mexico. That's where you'd go. You'd go to Mexico. I think we should call someone on the hotline. Oh, there she is on the hotline. Kim Schaffer, the phone angel. Hello, Kim.
Hello. In this studio, it should be called the cold line.
Are you freezing?
Not as bad today as other times.
It's pouring rain outside.
It is pouring, which I hope this rain stays up here in Petaluma and does not go down to Santa Clara.
Why is that?
I don't want to wash out.
Oh, we have a football game?
Football game.
Don't they play in the mud? I thought football players were brave.
Well,
I know baseball players don't play in the rain.
There was one delayed recently, I thought.
Yeah.
But maybe
remember that first season, the first game of the season in Chicago, where there was like a slip and slide? Remember that?
Yes. That field was a swimming pool by the end of the game.
That's good football.
So maybe they will play anyway. The fans won't be too happy.
Kim Schaffer and I'm sorry to say, are NFL.
I worked sort of red for it.
Fans. I forgot, a guy gave me, it was very generous of him.
That jacket?
a sweatshirt from the Super Bowl.
Oh, right. Yeah.
The last one they won. And wait, I forgot to wear it. I will wear it next week.
Okay. I will send you a reminder.
Send me a reminder. Who should I talk to on the phone?
Let's talk to Bob in Elmwood Park, New Jersey. Help convince his wife to go to an iPhone instead of her S9.
I am an expert in spousal persuasion. Just ask my wife. No, she'll tell you immediately.
Right.
No, he's not. He's not at all.
Not the boss.
Not the boss of me. Thank you, Kim. Hello, Bob. Leo Laporte.
Hello, how are you?
Guy. I'm well.
Very good. So I've got a kind of a simple question, but it's not. My wife has got a Galaxy 9.
Yes.
And she loves it
Great phone.
primarily for the calendar.
Oh, interesting. It's the calendar she likes. Huh. She likes the calendar.
The calendar is kind of all colored. So
Yeah.
she keeps her
It's pretty.
agenda on there,
Yeah.
for her mom and for her and her doctor's appointments. So I ran up the steps after.
That's okay. It's okay. Take
Anyway.
it easy, Breathe.
Yeah.
Breathe.
So anyway, she says, well, if I get an iPhone, I have an iPhone, and she goes, your calendar can't do anything like mine can do. Then the second issue is she's got ongoing chats for like the last 3 months with all her friends.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, if I switch phones, she goes, are those chats going to follow me to the new phone?
And so what would be helpful to know is if what she's using for chats. Is she using just whatever was built into the Samsung?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And
Okay.
that was one of the things. If she was using, a secondary app, I figured, once you log into that, it would carry it over.
Exactly. If it was WhatsApp or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, my carrier is T-Mobile.
So Samsung in that era shipped a Samsung Messages program as opposed to Google's Messages program. It's very confusing. They're both called the same thing. And let me look at the Apple calendar and see. So let me address this one at a time. We'll start with the calendar.
Or if there was a secondary calendar app.
Yeah, I use Fantastical, which yeah, she's right. It's not very colorful, and I'm using on the left. It's radio. You can't see it. I'm using the Google Calendar, which has kind of got colors and stuff. Samsung's even more colorful. This is actually this is a deeper aesthetic issue, which is that Samsung kind of is a toy, especially older Samsungs, kind of had that toy appearance with lots of colors. It was like Candy Crush. They toned that down.
Yeah, Leo, it's not colors from the aesthetics. So for example,
No, I understand.
My schedules are green.
So one thing she should do, first thing she should do, is synchronize her calendar to Google. I hope she's doing that anyway. It's kind of part of all Android systems, but you have to create that. You have to log into your Google account, and then go on the web to contacts.google or calendar.google.com and see that it's doing that.
Okay.
So that's good. That means the Google Calendar has those colors for each, calendar. Each calendar has a different color. In fact, that's very typical, right?
Okay.
Apple's calendar does that. There is a better calendar app for iPhones that you might want to buy, but I would say start with Apple's calendar apps. But Fantastical is what a lot of, kind of heavy-duty calendar users use on the iPhone. Both of those, though, will have color-coded calendars and color-coded events and stuff. So you'll get that organizational tool. She's not going to miss that. Message is a little more complicated because right now she's using, I would assume because she's using Samsung's messages, mostly they're SMS and her carrier has them and Samsung has them, but she can download the messages. The problem is she can't really import them into the Apple messages. She's going to have to use Apple messages. If she were using WhatsApp or whatever, it would just go right across. Apple messages will start from scratch. So she's going to lose all of those messages. She can save them.
Right.
But she can't just import them. She won't be able to go into messages and see what mom said 8 months ago anymore.
Yeah, and that's why I said, why do you have to keep them? And I said, well, how many times have you gone back 3 or 4 months to reference them? And you know what the answer is? Well, I haven't.
Yeah,
Why do you need them?
It is useful. I do it sometimes. Mom, I told you. Honey, it's instant replay for your spousal requests. So sometimes you'll do that. If you're using, I'm sure she's using Samsung's messages. That was the default, and most people don't ever.
I know for sure.
Yeah,
definitely.
So I'm pretty sure she can, if she's backing up to her Samsung account. She will have those messages in her Samsung account. It's just there's no Samsung messages for iOS.
Right.
And even if there were, she's going to use. But now Scooter X is reminding me that Apple has made, and it's worth a try. Problem is you won't know until you use it. A tool for moving from Android to Apple. It's called Move to iOS.
Oh.
So that will get some of the data. It might even get the messages. If it does, that's your solution. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, Sam Abuelsamid coming up.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, hold on a sec. We had to let the thing do the thing, and now it's done. Let me just quickly check. Transferring, no, see, it doesn't, this release adds support for, I don't know if it gets text messages. It's going to be an uncomfortable move.
Yeah. So this Move to iOS program, is this something that if I went into the Apple Store that they would be able to do it?
No. It's in the Google Play Store. It's a Google.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's an Android app that Apple made for Android. It's not perfect. It's far from perfect. And I don't think it's going to take the messages, to be honest with you.
Right.
And I got to tell you, she's going to be uncomfortable because she's used to the Android way of doing things. And even though, it's not much different in concept, it is in looks.
Yeah, the reason I really want to do it is she's got some cardiac issues, and I want to get the Apple Watch for her.
Yeah,
And
that's a
without
very
an
good
iPhone,
reason to
it's
do
useless.
it. Yeah. Although Samsung's watch does do some of that now, the new Samsung watch. So you should look at the capability, see if that's sufficient. I think nothing is as good as the Apple Watch. Apple has really doubled down on health for the Apple Watch.
I've got a friend of mine. It just saved his life. He was about to go in for surgery, and it said, "Hey, you're an AFib."
Oh my God!
Cancel the surgery the night before, so it literally saved his life.
Wow! So that is a very, you know what? To save her life, she can live with a little bit of discombobulation. They're telling me now, according to the specs, Knox Harrington, our chairman, says Move to iOS does move message history. So, gosh, the problem is you won't know until you get an iPhone. Right.
Yeah. Well, that's no problem. Once it's done, it's done.
Yeah, that 9 is pretty old. I mean, Samsung is going to announce the Galaxy S23 in February.
Yeah.
They skipped a few, so it's not like 14 better, but it's maybe 8-9 years later. So it's certainly worth. Yeah. I think that's a really good reason to get an Apple Watch and an iPhone. You can. I'll give you one other thing. You can set up an an Apple Watch for her with your iPhone. There is a way to do that. Okay. So if you can at least get her the Apple Watch, and it will do all that stuff. You can set it up for her with an iPhone. But the truth is, everything's easier if you have the Apple Watch and the iPhone.
Well, that's exactly what I'm going to do. That's going to be for Christmas present. So
good. Just get it for her. Say, honey, I love you. I don't want to lose you. So please.
Listen, 38 years. I'm not getting rid of her yet.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Thanks so much, and you have a great holiday.
All right, you too. Take care. Hey, Sam.
Hey, Leo.
How are you? I'm good. What's
I got
up?
A cough switch.
Oh, wow. Aren't you fancy, Mr. Fancy? What do you want to talk about today? Scooter X, I don't think SMS backup and restore will back up from Android and then restore to iOS. But maybe it will. Maybe it will. I wouldn't count on it. Let's put it that way. So what do you want to talk about today, Sam? Oh, Tesla
delivered the first of their semis this week, and they announced some new stuff for charging, megawatt charging. So
megawatt,
ultra high speed charging.
It's got to be bad for your battery.
It's probably not great for it.
Yeah.
It's also probably not as energy efficient as slower speed charging at all.
People really worry about this charging thing when I charge once a week overnight. Anyway, here we go.
Yeah.
Tech Guy Show brought to you today by IT Pro from ACI Learning. This is big news. I want to tell you about this. IT Pro TV, we've talked to you about them since they started almost 10 years ago, is now IT Pro from ACI Learning. And this is really good news for existing IT Pro customers and new customers. It is really expanding the offerings they can give you. Whether you're new to the IT field or a seasoned pro, IT Pro's IT training courses online are life-changing. Virtual solutions for everyone, for individuals trying to get into IT, get those certs so they can get that first job, somebody's working in IT who wants to get a better job or learn more skills, and for any business that wants to get its IT team up to snuff, to give them superpowers. You'll get IT training videos for every vendor, every skill. They're done in a great talk show format with IT pros, incredible trainers who are experts in the field. They're real-world experts. They work in this business, but they also have a passion that communicates, and it makes that training much more interesting. 6,800 hours of IT skills and training courses, but they're always up to date. They have 8 studios. They're running Monday through Friday all day, constantly creating more material because you know what? It's a constantly changing field, but IT Pro is always up to date. And because every episode's 20 to 30 minutes, you can watch them at your convenience during lunch hour, at night, whenever it's convenient for you. They've got transcripts. You can read along or search to find the part you're interested in. And with the interactive IT virtual labs, and this is really something that really sets IT Pro apart, you can actually practice the skills you're learning, but you don't have to own a Windows server. You can do it all in the browser with a virtual lab, on-demand access to cloned virtual machine environments to test the skills you're learning. They also have practice exams. Now, that's really important if you're about to take a test. I don't know if you've ever done this. It changed my life when I was taking, those SATs and the PSATs. We take the practice exams. They have these for every IT cert, so you can take the practice exam before you take the real thing. See if you know what you need to know, kind of get you comfortable with the format. It's a great idea. Join their online community, IT Pro, for more than 220,000 IT learners. Learn when and where you want on the desktop, the tablet. They've got Apple TV, Roku, mobile devices. It's silly to spend a lot of money on a technical school or a university degree when you could get fast, accurate, up-to-date training right now from IT Pro. Check out IT Pro's top 12 courses for free during their December free weekend. It's coming up December 10th and 11th, next weekend. And every month they also have free webinars you can live watch, which is nice because then you can ask the questions or watch on demand. The new one is December 8th, 4 days from now. All things cybersecurity, Josh Mason. That's 2 p.m. Eastern. But it'll also end up being in all of IT Pro's social channels, so you can watch it wherever you want. But I would, if you can, December 8th, 2 p.m. You know what? This is what you do. Go to the website, itpro.tv/twit. Find out when that cybersecurity seminar is. Sign up today with the offer code TWIT30 for 30% off. Or watch the seminar for free. Oh, the 12 Days of IT is back. Yay! So they do this on their YouTube channel, the IT Pro YouTube channel. A new gift unboxed every day. They're doing it right now. It started November 28th. They'll go right through December 9th. And you can win when you visit go.itpro.tv/12days. Go.itpro.tv/12days. December 9th, the winners will be announced live on YouTube. They make it fun. Tim Broom and Don Pizzette, the co-founders of IT Pro TV. Love these guys. They're good friends. They make IT learning absolutely fun. And I love this quote from them. They said, "We created it because it's the IT training we wanted to have ourselves. Engaging, conversational, affordable, and convenient." 30% off when you sign up right now, itpro.tv/twit. Use the code TWIT30. 30% off when you use the code TWIT30. IT Pro. Build or expand your IT career. Enjoy the journey, and congratulations to IT Pro. Their new partner, ACI Learning. You'll see as we go over the next 12 months, a lot more of them We have a big announcement we're going to make in a couple of weeks. You're going to see a lot more of them, and we have a lot more to tell you about them. This is very, very exciting news. itpro.tv/twit. Offer code TWIT30. Thank you, IT Pro. Here he comes. He's got a little chain for his steering wheel. It's about the size of a coffee can lid. His car goes up and down, even though it's a Mazda Miata. Ladies and gentlemen, our very own lowrider, Sam Abuelsamid, principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights. His podcast, Wheel Bearings, is the best car podcast anywhere. He's the best car guy ever, and he joins us every week. Hi, Sam.
Hello, Leo. How are you today?
I am great. Elon Musk, even though he's preoccupied these days with other things, is still delivering Teslas.
Yeah, this week they delivered the first production semis to PepsiCo right on schedule, which is to say about 3 years late.
He says he's going to make a million of these by next year. 100,000.
No.
10.
The market for Class A semis is total market's only about 150,000.
Yeah.
Between 150,000 and 200,000.
There's two things going on here. One is the electrification.
Mm-hmm.
And the other is autonomous driving. This is, of all the different things we can do with self-driving vehicles, trucking seems like the most likely, right?
Yeah, and in fact, we recently published a couple of reports at Guidehouse on this topic, a leaderboard report and a forecast report. And automated trucking is definitely one of the areas we think where driving automation is going to really start to take hold more quickly and more broadly than in for light duty vehicles like robo taxis and last mile delivery vehicles, because there are, first of all, there's a shortage of truck drivers. Nobody really wants to do long haul truck driving anymore, or fewer and fewer people want to do it. And it's projected that by the latter part of this decade, here in the U.S., we'll have a shortage of probably somewhere between 150 and 200,000 drivers. Plus, there are a lot of regulations on how many hours a day drivers can operate the vehicle, and the rest time that's required, and that's perfectly legit. I mean, that's a good thing. It's good for safety. It's good for the drivers. It's good for other people on the road. But what that means is that there's definitely a shortage of drivers, especially as we want to move more and more freight over the roads. And so there's a bunch of companies that are working on automated trucks. And in fact, when Tesla first announced the Semi 5 years ago, they talked about full self-driving for the Semi. Notably, this week when they actually delivered the first truck to PepsiCo for delivering chips, there was no mention of that. There was no discussion of that because, frankly, Tesla's system is just not up to snuff for what's needed for that.
So then this was all about electric.
Yeah, this was about electrification and fleet electrification. Fleet decarbonization is an important area across all kinds of industries. Most big companies over the last several years have declared their intention to go carbon neutral, follow Science-Based Targets Initiative, and go carbon neutral by sometime around 2040, 2045. And what that means, with the science-based targets, is not just a matter of taking carbon out of their own operations, but also out of their supply chain. So going down multiple levels in the supply chain. And part of that means, reducing emissions from trucking. We've, from the research that we've done at my company, looking at commercial vehicles, of all types, from last mile delivery vehicles to buses and long haul trucks. Long haul trucks only represent about 14% of the total unit market for commercial vehicles, but they represent almost half of all the carbon emissions.
Wow.
Because they're large, they're heavy, and they also run a lot of miles. Most of these vehicles, these long haul trucks are running, 150, 200,000 miles a year, and they're running continuously. So there's a lot of miles being racked up by these trucks, which, in turn means, a lot of emissions associated with it.
Yeah.
When you look at it, when you factor in, how much freight they're carrying and how much they're moving, things like that, the numbers aren't as crazy, but still they do account for a lot of the emissions from ground transportation. So electrifying where they can is really important. And one of the obviously Tesla is focused on battery electric, but a lot of other truck manufacturers are also working on fuel cell trucks, because the problem with
hydrogen,
hydrogen fuel cells, which are also electric, by the way. They're not, instead of storing electricity in a battery,
sure,
they're generating the electricity on the fly in a fuel cell that takes hydrogen and that's stored and oxygen from the atmosphere, combines them to produce electricity and water.
And the emissions are water. The
emissions are water. Yeah.
So hydrogen has the advantage of quick refuel, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be the biggest advantage.
You can refuel a hydrogen fuel cell truck in about 15 minutes.
Also less weight, right? Our batteries are very heavy.
Much less weight. And this is one of the big challenges with going to battery electric trucks. During the presentation this week, Tesla talked about, they did a test recently. They ran their truck from somewhere, I think Fremont, I think from their Nevada plant all the way down to San Diego, about 500 miles. They went 500 miles on a single charge with a full load, 82,000 pounds gross vehicle weight. What they didn't talk about, though, was how much of that 82,000 pounds was actually the cargo versus the weight of the truck. A diesel powertrain and a conventional Class 8 truck weighs somewhere around 1,200 pounds or so, including the fuel system, the engine, transmission. For an electric truck to have a 500-mile range, it needs at least a megawatt-hour battery pack, so 1,000 kilowatt hours. So about 10 times the size of the battery in your Mach-E.
Wow.
Which is going to weigh somewhere between 10 and 12, 13,000 pounds.
And you got a load already.
Trucks, have a weight limit on them.
Yeah.
Which is typically 80,000 pounds. For electric trucks, they actually give them an extra 2,000 pounds allowance, which I'm not sure why they're doing, because that just puts more wear and tear on the roads. But even at 82,000 pounds, you're looking at adding an extra 10,000 pounds just for the weight of the battery.
That's more than 10%. That's bad.
So a typical 80,000 pound truck, the tractor and the trailer is about 35,000 pounds. You got about 45,000 pounds of payload capability. And now you're taking 10,000 pounds of that, putting it into the battery. So now instead of 45,000 pounds, you've got 35,000 pounds. And the revenue for these trucks is based on how much freight they can carry.
Do they save money not using diesel? Is there a little?
They absolutely save a lot of money compared to diesel. There should be less maintenance cost, but the question is, how's that going to play out in terms of payload capability? And those are the numbers we don't really have yet.
How come? My friend asked me a question. He tows a boat up to Tahoe all the time, and he can't really buy an electric vehicle because when you start towing, it cuts the mileage in half, and he just can't get to Tahoe.
Same is true for a gas or diesel vehicle.
Right. I understand.
You cut your fuel economy in half as well.
Yeah. Why aren't they, he wanted to know, hybrid trucks where you have a little gas engine in there?
Well, there are hybrid trucks. Ford has a hybrid F-150 available.
Oh, that's
Toyota
right.
has
They
a
did
hybrid
that a long time ago. How about
version of the Tundra?
How about in the big rigs? Could you do hybrid?
You probably could. It gets a lot more complicated, and at this stage, it's probably not worthwhile.
Yeah.
Hydrogen is probably a better solution right now.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting world we live in. Someday I'll ask you about the fun times they're having in San Francisco with those cruise vehicles that just seem to get very confused, but that's for another day. Sam Abuelsamid, principal researcher, Guidehouse Insights. 900 kilowatts. That's a lot of watts. Would you like to stick around or no?
Sure.
Oh, good. I will set you up here. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So, the other thing I was going to talk about with this truck is that they announced a megawatt charging system for it. Currently, superchargers are limited to 250 kilowatts. And excuse me, kilowatts are the measure of power. How many electrons can you put into the battery per unit time? And so we're talking 4 times the charging speed with 1,000 kilowatts or 1 megawatt. But that, of course, has some challenges associated with it. And if you're watching the stream, you can see the diagram I have over my shoulder, which shows, they showed during their presentation, they showed a cross section of the charging cables. The one on the top, which is probably about 3/4, maybe 7/8 of the area of this cross section of the charging cable is the conductors, the copper wire that actually transfers the electricity back and forth. And then the other 2 are cooling tubes, because with DC fast charging, the cables have to be liquid cooled because otherwise you get too much heat built up in the cable, and because of the resistance, the electrical resistance in there. With their megawatt charging cable, they've come up with an interesting design where with the DC fast charging today, like with the superchargers today, they run at 480 volts. And with electricity, you have power, which is voltage times current. But you also have resistance in the wires. And the higher the current is, the more resistance you have. Whereas if you go to higher voltage, you can use a lower current, maintain the same power, and then when you generate resistance, that generates heat, which is why you have to cool the cables. So Tesla's come up with an interesting design for their megawatt charging cable, which is supposedly about the same overall size, same overall diameter, but has much smaller conductors because they've gone from 480 volts to 1,000 volts. And but it's also gone from about 300 amps to 1,000 amps. And the charging wires, the conductors in there, are actually surrounded by a cooling jacket, a liquid coolant jacket. And there's additional cooling, which takes the heat away from that, so the cable doesn't overheat and melt. All good. What we don't know yet is how long it will actually be able to maintain that megawatt charging speed before even that cooling system can't sustain it. And then, also for the battery, there's also the challenges for the heat in the battery. And then the other big problem is, even though those cooling jackets are cooling the cable, it doesn't really, it's not reducing the resistance in there. So you're still generating a lot of heat, and that heat is loss of efficiency. So to put a kilowatt hour of energy into a battery with a typical DC fast charger, it might take 1.1 kilowatt hour or maybe 1.05 kilowatt hours. So you're losing about 5 to 10%. With this one, we don't know how much efficiency loss there's going to be. So charging at this speed is actually going to be significantly more expensive than it would be for a slower speed charging system. And I will hand it back to Leo, and I'll be back in the next break.
Well, you stick around. Good. Thank you. Right. That's about all I can play on the piano right there. I'm going to stop. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo the phone number if you want to talk high tech with me. Let's do it. Let's do it. What do you say? Next, Brent from Riverside, California. Hello, Brent.
Hi, how you doing, Leo?
Welcome. I'm great. How are you?
Good. And before I ask my question, congratulations on your upcoming retirement, and I'll miss listening to you on the radio.
Well, Rich is coming in, Rich tomorrow, Rich on Tech, taking over this time slot on the radio, which is good news. And I'll be still doing a podcast, so if you have a hankering for a little more tech talk, you can just download that. We'll even do it live on Sunday, so you can even watch it or listen if you were really, crazy about it. But I think Rich is going to be a great replacement.
I think so, and I'll definitely tune into your podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So I'm getting a new TV and a new sound bar. I have a 4K right now, but it's an older one. I've never really set it up for the 4K. I think there's some settings in there, but I'm getting a Sony X85.
Ooh, nice.
TV. So,
one of the best. Yeah.
I didn't go all the way to the OLED, but I was okay with this. It's a 65-inch, and I'm getting the Sony HT the 3000, the soundbar.
Good.
Dolby Atmos.
Good.
And also a subwoofer with it.
Perfect.
So I guess my main question is I don't want to say the company, but I went through a local company. I don't know if I can say it or not.
Sure.
And they send out a tech crew that's Geek Squad.
Geek Squad. Best Buy.
So they send out, and I paid the $200.
That's not a bad idea with a setup, especially if it's a big old bulky device and the wiring is crazy and all that. $200. Okay.
So that's kind of what I wanted to ask. I love setting my own stuff up. I've always kind of set my own phones up and done all that. But I know with these TVs, there's just a ton of settings to make. Well,
you answered your own question because you never did finish setup of the old TV, right?
I guess this is true. Yeah. So,
I'll have to be honest with you. $200 is a lot. If they're calibrating it, maybe, but they're not calibrating it. All they're doing is taking it out of the box. I mean, I can't say whether it's worth it for you. They're taking it out of the box, putting it where you want it, putting up the sound bar, connecting the TV to whatever your input is, your cable box or whatever, and connecting the TV to the sound bar, turning it on, saying, see, and leaving. And then I tell you what, one of the nicest things, they take the box with them. But other than that, you could do that. I think you could do all of that. I have faith in you.
That I can do, but I guess what they're selling me is that they're supposed to spend like 2 hours with me and go through all this setup stuff, and I don't know.
I would pay them $200 not to do that, but that's just me. I honestly, if you ever get to a hotel and the guy who brought your luggage up wants to give you a tour of the room, I always go, no, here, take some money and leave me alone. I don't want to know how to open the curtains, turn on the lights in the bathroom. I don't need the tour of the room. So it's really a question of, do you need a tour of that room? And I don't, honestly, I think you're going to get a manual. They still ship TVs with manuals. They're not very good, but there's something. And you're going to get a remote. And my suggestion is, if you feel like you can connect it, and I think you can, that's not hard. You're going to, what do you have as the input device? What's going into it?
So I was going to use the HDMI ARC because it's got the
perfect
the ARC setup.
You see, you're thinking. So that's going to go to what? A cable box or an AV receiver? What is it going to go to?
So I actually plan on. It's got an Ethernet input on it, so I'm going to plug my Ethernet cable right into it. So
good.
It's wired.
Good.
And then I'm going to. And then it goes from the cable modem to the TV. So I'll set that up. And then I plan on hooking the sound bar up through the HDMI ARC.
Perfect.
And running it down to the sound bar. And then I was also I have a PS4, hoping to update to a PS5. So I'll hook that into the HDMI 2.1 port.
Perfect.
The 2.1
Perfect.
port is good. And then that's the setup. I guess the main thing for me was like going through like the TV settings. Is that something that you feel like?
I have to say,
general knowledge?
This is up to you. I would say the first thing I would do, I'd sit down, turn that TV on, and I would go through every menu setting, and I would look at every single one. And the problem is every TV, even different models within the same manufacturer's line, have completely different names for things. For instance, one of the first things you're going to want to turn off is there's different names for it, but video interpolation, the video smoothing that allows you to run a higher frame rate than you're actually getting. Now, you do want on your PS5 when you get it, you want 120 hertz because the PS5 does put out 120 frames a second, but your cable box does not. So if you have your TV set to 120 for your cable box, it's doing video interpolation. It won't call it that. It'll call it something else. It depends on the manufacturer, but it'll call it something, marketing-y, like high smooth frame rate for sports or something. But it's terrible. It makes everything look like it's plastic. It looks like a soap opera.
I cut the cord a long time ago.
Oh, good. All right.
I only do apps, and all the apps are going to be on the TV. So I don't know how that plays into it, but I'm assuming that's 60.
Yeah, they still don't. So it depends. It really depends. Like some higher end streaming companies will send you higher frame rate. I think most won't. Most will be 60. So, but you play with it. I think. Boy, it's up to you. And the Geek Squad is of varying quality. You might get somebody really great who knows, for instance, there's a secret menu on there. And he might know how to get into the secret menu.
Okay.
I would honestly take that money and spend it with a calibrator, which is somebody who is certified by THX or Dolby or one of the calibration certifiers. Scott Wilkinson is a calibrator. He comes in with a special device and sets your TV to be color accurate. That's less important, I think, nowadays than it used to be. In fact, he came in with my LG OLED like 5 years ago. He said, well, I don't have to really do anything. It's fine. But some older TVs, and I wonder, might need to be calibrated. That might be a better because you're going to get a better result. But it really is. I can't tell you whether you need it or not. There are definitely people who need it. My mom not only would need it, but would go right through her head and would be useless. So that's the other end of the spectrum where it's like pay $200, but you're never going to remember any of this. So it really depends. It seems like a lot of money to set up a TV.
It does. It's not just this, they give you like 12 months of I guess it's some kind of warranty in-person service. But I kind of feel like the Sonys. I mean, I don't even know.
You're probably going to be all right. Sony warranty is good enough. I wouldn't personally. I would, like I said, I would give them $200 not to do that. But your mileage may vary, as they say. I'm
kind of thinking the same thing. So I will make sure to turn off that video interpolation because that kind of. Somebody had mentioned, and my neighbor had a problem, and they called it the soap opera effect, I guess.
That's it. Exactly what I was just talking about. Yeah. By setting the frame rate higher than the input. That's interpolation, the soap opera effect. That's the one thing you definitely want. Well, there's two things you definitely want to turn off, but you'll do this probably naturally. TVs are set in a demo mode, so they're brighter and more vivid for the store. You don't want that. So you're going to immediately go to cinema mode or something like that. They'll have games, sports, cinema. They'll have a variety of settings. I usually just put it in cinema mode. It initially looks darker and more muted because it is, but it's more it's real. It's more natural. It's more accurate. Okay. So that's you're going to want to change. And if there is any video interpolation on, and that will be something around this high frame rate, 120 hertz. You don't for the PS5 once you get it. That's great. In fact, this is a great TV for the PS5 because it will do 120. And the PS5 will do 120 at 4K, and that looks fantastic. But nothing you're getting over streaming is 120. I can't think. Actually, okay. I thought maybe Disney Plus, but I don't think so. The best you're going to get is 4K HDR at 60 frames a second. I'll have to check. Chat room, is there anybody who streams more than 60 frames per second? I don't think so. We'll put a little video Tom Cruise made a couple of years ago when one of the Mission Impossibles came out, telling you to turn off motion smoothing.
I remember that.
You remember that? So those are the two things I would do. The rest of it you can learn, read the manual, go through it. I think you're smart. I think you can do it. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Let me see if I can find that real quickly just to play it, and then I'll get you Sam here. Tom Cruise, turn off motion smoothing. Oh, I'm typing, but it's not doing anything. Tom Cruise.
Hi, I'm Tom Cruise, obviously, and I'm Chris Marquardt, obviously. And we're talking to you from the set of Top Gun Maverick.
Oh.
We're very proud to present Mission Impossible Fallout, and we want you to enjoy it to the fullest possible effect.
Yeah, he shot Top Gun 2 years ago.
We'd like a moment of your time to talk to you about video interpolation. Video interpolation, or motion smoothing, is a digital effect on most high-definition televisions and is intended to reduce motion blur in sporting events and other high-definition programming. The unfortunate side effect is that it makes most movies look like they were shot on high-speed video rather than film. Now, this is sometimes referred to as the soap opera effect. Without a side-by-side comparison, many people can't quite put their finger on why the movie they're watching looks strange. Most HD TVs come with this feature already on by default. And turning it off requires navigating a set of menus with interpolation often referred to by another brand name. If you own a modern
That's the
high-definition
problem.
television, there's a good chance you're not watching movies the way the filmmakers intended, and the ability to do so is not simple for you to access.
Filmmakers are working with manufacturers to change the way video interpolation is activated on your television, giving you easier access and
But
greater
Tom
choice
says,
over when to use this
leave
feature.
the Vaseline
Meanwhile, a
effect
quick internet
on.
search should provide you with step-by-step instructions on how to quickly disable the feature so that you can enjoy the movie you're about to see exactly as the filmmakers intended.
Turn off motion smoothing,
who
or
works so
whatever the
hard
hell they call
to
it.
bring you the very best version.
All right, we have motion smoothing turned on for you, Sam Abuelsamid.
Oh no, please don't. That is one of the most annoying things about
I
hotel
agree.
rooms is you turn the TV on and they always have the motion
Yeah.
smoothing turned on, and
Yeah.
of course they have some generic remote. That's not the remote for the TV, so you can't get into the settings and you can't turn it off. Bugs the hell out of me.
I'm glad,
So-
the awareness is high now, though, which is good. People are aware of it. Yeah. All yours.
So, all right, thank you. Mick had a comment in the chat about he was watching, I think, Modern Marvels or something. They were talking about EV batteries, it all being AA batteries, just packed in different containers, and that's not exactly right.
It's not even close.
No. Well, when the Tesla Roadster and subsequent Teslas were developed, and actually before that, the Tesla Roadster, the original Tesla Roadster, was inspired by a car built by a company called AC Propulsion in Southern California. It was called the T0, and basically they took a kit car and made it electric, and they were the first ones to use a lithium-ion battery for an EV. And what they did was they used 18650 cells, which they look like AA's, but they're actually longer and a bit thicker than a AA battery. And they used several thousand of these in the battery pack. And that's what Tesla did, starting with the Roadster and then the Model S and the Model X. And then when they got to the Model 3, they went to a different form factor, which is 2170. It's still a cylindrical cell. So when you look at it in isolation, it looks kind of like a AA,
looks
but
like
it's
yeah.
it's bigger.
Yeah.
Double A's would be
it
too small.
This doesn't do it justice because you can't tell it's actually.
You don't have any
fatter.
sense of scale there.
Yeah. When I bought my Model X, they showed me these cells.
Yeah.
They had a demo of it. So.
Yeah, and they're 18650s, which means they're 18 millimeters in diameter, 65 millimeters long. So a little bit bigger than a AA. And in the S and the X, in the long range versions of those, they had something like 8,000 cells in there, which those cylindrical cells are cheaper to manufacture than the larger format pouch cells and prismatic cells that most other EV makers use. But it also means that the battery pack is a lot more complex because you've got to weld the wire, the connections between all these batteries in series and in parallel, and it does get a lot more complex to actually manufacture the pack. So not quite AA's. The newest Teslas, they've gone to a different, yet another cell format, still cylindrical, but it's now up to 46 millimeters and 80 millimeters in diameter, 80 millimeters long. So it's about 5 times the size of the 2170 cell. They're having some challenges with manufacturing those. And so they haven't made very many vehicles with those in them yet. But in a Model Y that has the 4680 cells, instead of 4,400 cells, now it's down to about 820 cells, which is, reducing the number of cells helps a lot with manufacturing complexity. Somebody else in the chat had asked about wireless charging lanes for trucks, for electric trucks. And this idea of dynamic wireless charging is pretty cool. It's a nice idea. It's a lot more difficult to do in practice than it is in theory. There's actually a stretch of Michigan Avenue here in Detroit, about a 1 mile stretch, where they have built-in wireless charging, and they've been using it for some testing for about the last year or so. And the challenge is you lose when you've got a dynamic wireless charging system. You lose a lot of efficiency because ideally, you want the vehicle perfectly placed over the coils in the road. The road itself becomes much more expensive to build and to maintain. Durability is uncertain. especially in places like Michigan here, where we get a lot of potholes because of the cold winters and hot summers. Dynamic wireless charging is probably not something we're going to see widely spread. What we probably will see, though, is for things like buses, transit buses, building a static wireless charging pad at certain bus stops where the buses might be sitting stopped for, say, 3 to 5 minutes, and do 2 or 3 of those along a bus route. Then, with that, you can charge the bus, give it a top up, at about 200 kilowatts is what I've seen so far as the top speeds for that wireless charging. You can add a bunch of energy into that in 5 minutes, and then keep the bus going, and keep going around its route. And the nice thing about that is when you can charge it, every, 20, 30 minutes or so along a route, maybe every 40 minutes, you can have a much smaller battery. You don't have to have a battery that's going to last you the entire day of the bus route. It only has to last, say 45 minutes. So you can have a smaller battery that dramatically reduces the cost of the bus, and makes going electric much more affordable for transit systems. And then somebody else had a question about battery performance in cold weather, and this is something I've talked about before. Basically, a couple of things happen with batteries when they get cold. You get less power out of them, so that when they get outside of their optimal temperature range, the power output drops off quite a bit, which when it's cold is probably not a bad thing, because if it's cold, it's a good chance that the roads might be icy or slippery, and you probably don't want the full power of the battery going to the wheels anyway. And then once you do that, once the battery warms up, once you've been driving around for a little bit, then the battery the resistance in the battery heats it up, and it'll eventually start to release the full power. The other problem you get with cold weather, though, is having to heat the cabin of the vehicle for vehicle comfort. With an internal combustion engine, you've got a source of waste heat from the engine, and you can run that coolant through a heat exchanger, heat up the air in the cabin. Everybody's nice and comfortable.
That's why I have my heated steering wheel and heated seat in my Mach-E.
Right. With an EV, you've got to use some sort of heating system that draws power from the battery. Older EVs used a resistance heater, which significantly reduced your range. Now companies are starting to shift towards heat pump systems, which are much more efficient. So there's going to be a lot less impact on your cold weather range.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember in the Model X, they really wanted you to use the seat warmers because that's much more efficient. So.
Oh, yeah. And warming your body keeps you more comfortable.
Yeah.
Without having to warm all of the air in the cabin.
That's why I use an 8 Sleep Mattress Pad, our sponsor. Thank you, Sam Abuelsamid. Have a great week. Talk to you next week.
Right. Bye.
Why, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, electric vehicles, self-driving vehicles, self-crashing vehicles. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number if you have a question, a comment, a suggestion. 888-827-5536. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Website, techguylabs.com, has links to all the things we talk about. techguylabs.com. I was asking Mike Heiss, who is an expert on all of this home theater stuff. He's a colleague of Scott Wilkinson's. If any of the streaming systems out there does more than 60 frames per second, and in fact, I don't even know if they do 60 frames a second. They might do 30 frames a second. So, as far as I know, I don't know if Mike has answered, but I think that it is not the case that anybody does that. So, and also, you should definitely, he says, not to any degree at all. As they say in New Zealand, it's all about the bandwidth. Is that what they say in New Zealand? Is that because they have lots of sheep at their bandwidth? Mike Heiss has also pointed us to a website all about turning off interpolation, filmmakermode.com. Hollywood really doesn't like this. filmmakermode.com, and they even have on the website how to get it for various models. I noticed, though, they don't have Sony on here. They have BenQ, LG, Philips, Vizio, Hisense, Panasonic, Samsung. There is definitely a way to turn off the soap opera effect on Sony's, but maybe they couldn't figure it out. Let me see if they have Sony. No. On Samsung, which is probably the number one TV out there. Well, now see, I clicked the link and all it did is sent me to Samsung's mobile phone site. Well, forget that. Filmmaker mode. Are you trying to make a little money on the side that way? 8888 Ask Leo. Back to the phones we go. Michael on the line from Denver, Colorado. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Leo. Thank you so much for taking my call. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm on Skype.
You sound great. In fact, you sound better. It reminds me, when I first started doing this show back in 2004, everybody called on the phone, but one guy, maybe it was you, I don't know, called on Skype, and it sounded so good. I said, wait a minute. Hold on there. We could do podcasts this way, and it changed my life. So you sound great. Thank you for calling, Michael.
Absolutely, Leo. And I got to tell you before I get to my tech question, just thank you so much for your show. I wanted to get in one more time before you retired. I actually called you back in 2020 when Mixer was shutting down, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that. But,
yeah, that's Microsoft bought a streaming site and paid a lot of money to entice people like Ninja, who's a famous streamer, over, and then killed it.
Yeah, exactly.
Ninja made out like a bandit, like a ninja. He made millions going to Mixer, and then now he's back where he belongs on Twitch and YouTube and everywhere else, and he's still making millions. Smart man.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And I'm a huge Fortnite fan. I'm a huge fan of Ninja, and he's doing very well for himself.
I think he is. Hey, how did you like the new Fortnite, by the way? Did you go to the launch party?
You know, I did. I was there for the end of Chapter 3, Season 4, and then I've played the new map. The new map, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I missed the old map. But I love Fortnite.
They have The Witcher in it, right?
Exactly. Right, exactly.
Gerald of Rivian is actually, or whatever his name is actually in Fortnite 5, I should say. Wow.
Yeah, but Leo, I was going to ask you real quick before my tech question.
Yes.
I love radio. I've been listening to you all throughout my 20s. Has radio always been something you've been passionate about? How did you first get interested in radio?
I was in college, and I was lucky. Many colleges have campus radio stations, even to this day. I was in college, and my job working my way through college was working in the dining hall serving food, and I would be at the cafeteria line slurping mashed potatoes into the thing, and I was always doing voices and accents and stuff. And somebody came down the line and said, "Oh, you should be on the radio." Now, in hindsight, I realized what he meant is you should not be doing that here. But I took it to mean, I should go down to the campus station and audition. And this was, I hate to say it, 1976. I did. Wow. I fell in love with it. You know, I like radio. It's an interesting medium because of our imaginations, our brains. As a radio listener, it turns on parts of your brain you don't get with TV and film because you don't have any picture. So your imagination, that's why I like listening to audiobooks for the same reason. A science fiction book as an audiobook, or even as reading it, is much more vivid than any movie could ever be because you build it with your brain. And I feel like the intimacy that we forge talking directly to people almost with their eyes closed is a wonderful medium. I feel like in some ways radio is underutilized. I wish they'd bring back radio theater, things like that. There's so many things you could do. With just audio, and using your listener's imagination. So, yeah, I'm passionate for it. What's interesting is, at the time, we thought, we name radio and TV based on the transmission medium. We thought, well, in order to do this, you need to have a transmitter and a tower, and an FCC license. Turns out, I can talk into a microphone and broadcast on the internet with none of that. So once podcasting came along, right about the same time I started being the tech guy in 2004, that kind of changed my perspective. It turned out I wasn't in love with radio. I was in love with my voice. No, I was in love with talking to people, in an audio medium. I was in love with the audio medium. And so I think audio is bigger. Just look at how many podcasts there are. Audio is bigger than ever before. And that's really what it's all about. The only thing radio has that podcasting doesn't, and I do think that this is important, is it's live and it's local. So right now I'm talking to you live. I'm here, sitting here. You're sitting there. We're live, right? It's not a recording. And in the old days, it was local. It was your town. I think of this show as being local in the sense that we're all geeks, right? So we have a certain community of interest. And you kind of lose that. You still get the community of interest, but you lose that live. And I think as radio stations have gone to more national programming, and I shouldn't knock it because I'm one of them, but as they go to more national programming, they also lose that local thing. So when you listen to WGN in Chicago or KFI in Los Angeles or KGO in San Francisco, you should be listening to somebody who's in town talking about what's going on in town. And that's when radio is different from podcasting, and it really is amazing. That's kind of dying out, unfortunately, because, well, how old are you?
I'm 26 now.
See, I don't think many people your age listen to the radio. Do you?
Well, I grew up with radio. I mean, it was always something I could relate to more than video games, even as a kid, or TV for some reason.
So you're weird, right?
I know that, but I listened to you and Rush Limbaugh, and I just have always loved radio.
So he was
always really inspired me.
I don't agree with his politics at all, but he was a master of the medium. He really was.
Well, he saved AM radio.
Yeah.
I mean, when all the AM radio stations were flipping to music, he brought back the talk radio format for AM. I mean, AM radio would not be what it is today without him or you or
Michael.
Corey. And
I will say, I know that because I was doing a midday show in San Francisco, and the program director brought me in back in the 90s, early 90s, and said, "We're going to take you off the air. There's this guy in Sacramento named Rush Limbaugh we think is really good. We'd like to put him on instead of you." And of course, they were right to do so. Rush got 100 times the ratings I ever got. But I was one of those radio guys who was replaced by Rush Limbaugh. So I know that very well. But I give him a lot of credit, not for his politics, but for his ability to communicate. And there are many other people in this business who communicate through a microphone in an amazing way. I think it's really a communication medium more than almost anything else.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest thing is, how do we attract younger listeners back to terrestrial radio?
Well,
because there's so many other mediums out there streaming.
I don't think it's going to happen, Michael. You don't listen to music on the radio anymore because you have an infinite supply of music on your phone and you pick the songs. You don't listen to AM radio because you've got podcasts. I think that the internet has, like so many other things, the internet has changed forever the landscape of broadcasting. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I agree with you, and I think the best thing you could do is support if you have in your town a live, and I know you do in Denver, a live local KOA, there's just a great station in Denver. If you have a live local station that broadcasts during the week, weekends I understand, but if broadcasts during the week, live local content, support them, support their advertisers, send them letters, call in when they have call-in shows, make sure people know that this is a successful format and we want to keep it, because KOA is a great station and deserves to survive as a real radio station, Do you listen to KOA on AM 850 or do you listen on the FM?
Yes. Well, 94.1 FM and 850 AM. I listen to the Mandy Connell show. I mean, like you said,
she's great.
It is. She is. She's an amazing broadcaster, and but so are you. And Leo, thank you so much for your time. I'll get to my tech question if you want me to. If we have
Hang on, I'll do it, but I have to take a break because this is radio. Ad supported. We'll be back with more. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Chris Marquardt, our photo guy, coming up in just a little bit. Stay right here. So now we're on the podcast, but we can, hey Chris, be with you in a minute. We can do the podcast question and answer right now if you would like. Go right ahead, Michael.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Leo, just thank you so much. I so much appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Michael, thank you, because what you're saying speaks to me, because it really is true. One of the things I'm going to do, I'm not going to be on terrestrial radio anymore on Saturdays, but on Sundays, Micah and I are going to do a live call-in show, but we'll just do it on the internet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is an experiment. Can you do the same thing without a transmitter and a tower? I think you can, but we'll see.
Well, I think you're going to get younger listeners and younger callers because it's going to be, exclusive to the internet. And
but nobody, I would guess, nobody in your age group, nobody listens to the radio. They probably think you're strange.
Yeah, they do. Unfortunately.
But I agree with you. And you know what you've done, which I think we lose a little bit, for Mandy and Rush and all those people, you have this relationship. They call it a parasocial relationship. You have a relationship with them that is much more personal than anything you'd have with a TV broadcaster, I think. You feel like you know them, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so much different than TV in the way of just connecting to someone without seeing them. Because when you're, if someone's on TV and they say something that is a little bit out of line, like one sentence from disaster, you're going to see them make that mistake. But if it's on the radio, there's a little bit more room for leeway. And that's the one thing I've always been so impressed about you is you're always so confident on the radio. You're always so calm. How do you always...
Well, that comes with time. I've been doing it so long. And also, I didn't really start getting good in radio. It took me about 15 years before I felt comfortable. And I think the thing that really transformed it was when I stopped worrying about it. I didn't give a damn. Well, as soon as I stopped worrying about what people thought, I was 10 times better. Because up to that point, I was really kind of ingratiating. And a guy I worked with said, "You're too smiley." I was trying to get people to like me. Once I gave up on that, I was much better. So I think it's just age, it's just doing it for a long time, Hey, what was your tech question?
Yeah. So I have a wireless charger. It's a Mophie 4-in-1 charger.
Yeah. Good one.
I've been thinking about, upgrading it actually because it's not working as efficiently as it was when I first got it. It's kind of charging a lot slower. I read a review about it's called the Satechi Dock 5 multi-device charging station. I was going to ask you just what you would recommend in terms of,
Is it do you want a dock or just a charger? So that's the first question. The Satechi is more like a dock, right? It connects to a computer and then connects your devices to your computer. So that's different than charging. If you just want a charger, look at these new these gallium nitride chargers. They're smaller because they're using a new technology, and they have more wattage. This is an Anchor PD, so that's for Type C, the power delivery spec. But wireless, actually, I take it back. I don't even know if there's GaN wireless chargers. That's an interesting question. Wireless, there is a fast charging technology. Is not nearly as fast as the wired charging. So, but Satechi's a good company. They make good stuff. I have a lot of Satechi gear. I often get Anchor gear. The Wirecutter did a review of the best wireless chargers for phones. I don't know if it's for phones you care about or...
Yeah, I have an iPhone 14.
Yeah. So they like the Belkin Boost, but none of these are that's 10 watts. Belkin they liked a lot. The boosts are fast. 15 watts is the fastest. Nothing compared to hardwired. Hey, gotta run. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888. Ask Leo. Michael wanted to know about wireless chargers. There's a can of worms you're opening up. I like wireless charging for phones, right? In fact, I think phone manufacturers kind of want you to do it. It's not as efficient. I got to say, it's not as efficient as powered, plugging it in and plugging it into the port charging. In the long run, you're going to charge much faster by plugging into the phone directly. But wireless, if you're charging overnight, you're not in a hurry. It's a little easier on the phone's battery because it's not as fast. It's at most 15 watts. And most phones, you're probably talking 10 watts, which is slower. There is a little loss of efficiency, so you're wasting some electricity. I think it's not a huge amount. but it's just convenient because you don't have to, in the middle of the night, find the port. You go, let me plug that in. The other reason the manufacturers are interested, I think especially Apple, I think Apple wants to get rid of the port on the phone. Rumors were that they're probably going to do it in 2024 or 2025. It won't be next year. But that they will get rid of all the ports, and so you'll have to wireless charge. I told Michael that the best wireless chargers these days, it varies depending on the kind of phone and how fast you want to charge. Wirecutter likes the 10-watt Belkin Boost stand. I like stands too because it's harder to miss. One of the problems with wireless charging is you got to, and that's why Apple invented this MagSafe charging where it has a little magnet and it goes right on the sweet spot on the phone. But that's one of the problems with wireless charging. If you miss, you're not charging overnight and you wake up and, the phone's dead. But charging stands work really well because it's like a little easel. Plus, you can see the phone. I use a charging stand here during the show so I can see the phone and it's charging. $25 from Amazon for the Belkin Boost Charge wireless charging. If you want a little bit faster charging, the Boost Charge Pro is $38 from Amazon. That's a 15-watt iPhone device. Each manufacturer has its own high-speed wireless charging standard, too. That's another thing that complicates all of this. I prefer, instead of a pad, like an easel, just because it's harder to get it wrong. Anchor, I have a number of Anchor Power Wave stands. I bought, I think, 3 or 4 when they were on sale. They're still pretty cheap, $16. It's not super fast. If you're charging overnight, it's fine, and it's an easel, and it's the price is right. And I bought like 4 of them so I can have them everywhere I go. So there's a couple of recommendations. On we go to Jamie in Watertown, New York. Hi, Jamie.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. I am one of your podcast listeners, but I do support my local radio station.
Yay!
Also. We have a great weekend thing where they have flashbacks where they talk about history in the area while playing music from different years.
Isn't that fun? See, that's one way to save radio is do innovative stuff like that, right?
Yes. As a matter of fact, the gentleman who was hosting that passed away a couple of years ago, and they're playing the reruns now.
Well, why not? It's history.
Yes.
But that's, I think, why podcasts have become so successful. You can find any subject you're interested in and find a podcast on it and listen to it when it's convenient for you. So, that's, I think even the company that does this show, Premiere, which is owned by iHeart, calls itself an audio company these days, not a radio company. They understand it's about audio. What can I do for you? Thank you, Jamie, for saving the Watertown radio. That's good.
Okay. I have planned a trip to Germany in April for 10 days.
Great.
Yes, it's a geocaching trip. It's a group trip, so it does not line up with my son's spring break.
Oh.
So he will miss 10 days of school.
This will be better. He'll get an education. Just take him to some educational sites. There's a lot of history in Germany.
Yes, there is. I actually have been in Germany before, and I am excited about sharing it with him. But because of that, I know his school uses Google Classroom. I'm going to coordinate with his teachers, and I don't know if he might need to actually. At this point, I don't know because I'm going to talk to the teachers at the conferences, but he may need to be sending schoolwork back during our 10 days in Germany.
I've taken my kids traveling, and I've gone with giant stacks of homework, which they never did, of course, but I've gone with it. The good news is every hotel, Germany's great. Every hotel you go to will have high-speed Wi-Fi in the hotel. So if he brings a laptop or even a tablet, he probably is using a Chromebook in school. Is that right?
He's using a Chromebook in school, but I was thinking we would use his iPad because I'm not comfortable taking his school Chromebook overseas. Okay,
that's fair. So, bring your iPad. As long as you can do everything you need to do on the iPad, you will be able to get online at high speed anywhere in the hotel. I wouldn't worry so much about as you travel around. Pay attention to the geocaching. Have some fun. And then just say, hey, tonight, Junior, you're going to be doing some homework between 7 and 10 while Mom goes down and carouses with the Germans in the bar.
Okay. All right.
Or something like that. Not exactly that, but you understand. It's, because once you're in the hotel, you get great speed.
Okay. All right. So that's good to know. What about if I need to access, a phone? And I've got the 14. I've got that.
Who's your carrier? Who's your carrier?
AT&T.
So AT&T, like most U.S. phone companies, has an international plan. It's not cheap. Most of the time you'll want to use the Wi-Fi, which is, you're already paying for in the hotel. Perhaps download maps so you don't need to use data as much. But AT&T will sell you an international package. Just turn it on before you leave and make sure you turn it off when you get back. It's not too, I've done it before. It's not too expensive. And that way you keep your number and everything. We'll go to Germany with our photo guy, Chris Marquardt, as a matter of fact, right after this. Where should she go, Chris?
There's so many places.
I know.
That are awesome.
We're going to be in Germany next Christmas. We start in Munich. We're going to do one of those Christmas market riverboat trips.
Awesome.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, you fall in love with the German rivers.
We've had so much fun. It was our favorite riverboat trip ever. Was going
you get to see a lot of things.
You do, and you're not it's not like cruise ports. You're seeing like real towns.
I did teach photography on a German river cruise once, and they I think after the fifth stop they began calling it an ABC cruise, another bloody castle.
It is. If you go down the Rhine, it's might as well call it Castles on the Rhine.
It's castles and cities.
Castles on the Rhine.
Yeah.
We're starting,
roads.
I think we start in Passau. We go to Nuremberg, Regenburg, Deggendorf, Passau. And
all beautiful places.
I've been to them all before, so that's okay. And then I loved Regensburg. I look forward to going back there. Nuremberg was great. Loved Nuremberg Wurst, as they say it's the best, and they might be right.
The Nuremberg bratwurst is the best.
It's the best.
I can confirm.
And then we end up in Austria. We're going to Linz, down the Wachau Valley, which is a beautiful river cruise. Dürnstein, nice. Vienna for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And then we end up in Budapest, which is always fun to sail.
How's your German?
Terrible. I wish we were bringing my son. We had planned this with my son, but it got canceled because of COVID. He loves it. He's advanced German speaker. It's funny. I'll listen at the door while he's talking to his tutor in German, and I'm like, wow. We can never get him to do it in person, though. He's always, We were going to go in 2020 to Oberammergau to see the Passion Play.
The Festspiele.
Festspiele got canceled, Spiele. But, and they actually did it the next year, but I wasn't going to go in 2021 either. So we'll have to wait till 2030. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be a lot of fun. We go to
that sounds fun.
Down the Rhine-Main Canal.
Even though if you come around Christmas, Germany usually doesn't have a white Christmas. So.
It better snow when I'm there.
Yeah.
Well, we're in southern Germany too, which I'm sure Hamburg up your way.
There's a higher possibility for that. There's a higher possibility for more snow. Well, we do an assignment review today.
Oh boy, let me pull it up.
And as it's the last one, I would like to at the end do a fishbowl drawing of 3 ones to give people, like, just for themselves.
To take with them forever.
Take with them as a general type of homework thing.
That's a good idea. And then you can decommission the fishbowl.
And then I'll auction off the fishbowl. How about that?
Hysterical. Let me paste this into our chat.
Or I go buy a fish. How about that?
Yeah, or buy a fish.
Maybe I should get a fish, yeah.
Buy a fish. No, fish bowls are cruel. They say don't keep a goldfish in a fish bowl.
Keeping animals captive has never been my thing.
Well, you like kitty cats.
Well, but they were half of the time they were outside. They had access to the outside when they wanted. So,
did I screw this up? I might have screwed that paste up. Let me go back. No, it's one. Oh, I see. was one long link and then two short ones. Let me get the other ones. Our show today brought to you by Mimo Monitors, the global leader and industry expert in award-winning small format displays in touchscreens and tablets. You've seen Mimo monitors everywhere. At Mimo, they pride themselves on innovative, high-quality, cutting-edge touchscreen technology, ranging in size from little 7 inches, which are actually just perfect for some things, right, to 21 inches, designed to be inherently flexible to suit your needs, bring your vision to life. They don't stop there. Their displays are sleek, they're premium, they're intuitive, easy to use, easy to deploy, durable. In fact, a lot of cases, these displays are in use in kiosks and other places where durability is number one. They are created with maximum reliability to stand the test of time, even when they're in use 24/7. You'll also see them on a factory floor. You'll see them in Fortune 500 companies around the world. Google uses them, Sonos, Grainger, John Deere, Hertz. Now, the thing about Mimo monitors is they design these with kind of a solutions-focused approach. It's not a generic monitor, right? They're high-value, small footprint displays. They're used, well, digital signage. Maybe you've seen them, behind the counter. In conference rooms for conference calls. They're in kiosks, point of sale. They're widely used in education, healthcare. Museums like them because they last forever. They're easy to read. They're crisp. They're clear. You even see Mimo monitors outdoors. So you know they've got monitors for every situation. And if you don't find the solution you're looking for, you can reach out to them. They literally will create a custom solution for you that makes sure to meet your needs. And at Mimo, all their touchscreens are designed with the human touch, customer service right at the forefront. Their U.S.-based customer service team ensures that when you give them a call, a team member will get back to you promptly, deliver a premium customer experience with the goal to exceed your expectations. You know why? Because that's how Mimo makes a difference. People know this is a great quality product and with great service and people behind it. And that's how you be successful in the monitor business. Oh, and by the way, they also design software like Unify Meeting. Unify Meeting's great. I've talked about it before for video conferencing. One unified UI that handles Zoom, Teams, Google Meet. And I have to tell you, as somebody who does all three, it's so confusing, but Unify Meeting makes it simple. If you're working at home, in the office, if you're hybrid, combines all those solutions into one reliable user interface. Now, it's also true that Unify Meeting is great on one of those, like get a 7-inch Mimo monitor and just leave Unify Meeting running on it. When you're not in a call, it's your calendar, so you see it there at all times. And when you see others a call, you tap it on the Mimo monitor. It opens up. It knows whether to open Zoom, Teams, or Meet, opens the right thing with the unified interface on the 7-inch and full screen on your laptop or desktop, the solution you're using. So you still have access to that. I think it's the best way to go. If I were you, I would try Unify for your team at work. Try it yourself. You can visit unifymeeting.com, find out all about it. In fact, we've got a great deal if you enter TechGuy50 as the offer code at unifymeeting.com, 50% off a year's subscription. It's not very expensive, but it's a great thing to have throughout the office. On the other hand, and this is what I did, and I would suggest you do, go to unifymeeting.com and buy a Mimo display because it comes with Unify Meeting. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get that display with the meeting on it, and you can get 25% off if you use the offer code TechGuy. 25% off, offer code TechGuy, any of Mimo's displays. Now, this is a limited time offer. Simplify with Unify. Now, let me give you the complicated part. You get the software, unifymeeting.com, with 50% off for a year, TechGuy50. You get the hardware, unifymeeting.com, 25% off, and the software's free with the offer code TechGuy. TechGuy for the hardware, TechGuy50 for the software. I think it'll all be clear if you just go to unifymeeting.com. We thank them so much for their support. Make sure you use those offer codes, though, because that's how they know you saw it on the Tech Guy Show. Now, back to the radio. Chris Marquardt is here, our photo guy. He is, of course, at sensei.photo, but more importantly, he does those wonderful...
And at discoverthetopfloor.com.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. He does those wonderful expeditions at discoverthetopfloor.com, and there's a chance to go travel Eastern Europe with Chris and have a great time taking photos with one of the most accomplished photo teachers in the world, my personal photo sensei. Chris, I'm sad because we only have a couple more episodes this week, next week, and the week after. The 18th will be our last time together. So we're going to retire the fishbowl today on the episode. But before we do that,
A fishbowl.
let's do a photo review. What do you say?
Yep, let's review the last assignment, the blue assignment, and we had some nice participation, some great stuff, and I've chosen 3 pictures out of the whole bunch of. Look at the blueness here.
Oh, blue was the assignment. Blue. Blue
was the assignment, and so let's look at these pictures. Maybe let's do a little guess the title. So this is by Scott McLagan, and well, I love this picture. There's a dog on the top of stairs, and then there's this blue old door that frames it just as in an inverted L shape kind of thing. So I like the way this is put together. Of course, the title of this photo is Blue Dog 222.
Oh, the dog's not blue, but the arch is.
Well, the arch is the door frame is, and I like how it's everything is spaced out. It's a very clear subject in the photo, which is the dog. So the blue is more of a framing thing, and there's interesting lines and old derelict like a flooring there. It's very old, and I'm a fan of that. So
nice
good job there.
Nice.
Second one I chose is, oh no, I shouldn't have shown you the title. Can you guess the title of that one?
Boy, there's nothing blue in the picture. It's a black and white photo of a rural mailbox with it slightly open with some mail coming out.
The title is No Check Today.
Just bills, no check. Oh, I love it.
Just bills, no check. So that gives you a bit of the blues. For sure.
Come on, you gave that one a prize for the title.
Of course, and it's a black and white photo, and it's not a photo that has blue in it, but that just shows the idea of being blue.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah,
in some way, I like this a lot. So good job, Cool Florida guy submitted that one.
Thank you, Cool Florida guy.
And then the third one is Hold on.
Wait a minute, it's just blue.
Full screen this. Spelio submitted that picture.
Yeah.
And this is a bit on the technical side. So I'm not sure how well it translates to the compression of the video, but it's a blue sky.
Yeah.
And I looked at it first.
Oh,
and,
I see.
And then
there's a defect.
Spelio titles it, Looking for the Dust on the CMOS Check Sensor Cleaning.
That's hysterical. He does the same thing I do.
Have here.
I take a picture of the blue sky to look for dust on my sensor.
Yes, and you can see a speck here, and he put little squares around it. You can do this on Flickr. So here's a dust speck, and this is the clean area, more on the right, and then there's a little one that has like just a little bit, and this is okay. So if you have a camera with an interchangeable lens, then of course you will open that up. The dust gets in, and some of that dust sooner or later will end up on the sensor. It's just a given. Even if you don't change your lenses, if you zoom and focus and stuff, it's like a lens like here, one of these bigger ones. That's like a bicycle pump, right? It pumps air in and out.
Oh, so when you zoom in and out,
that means dust will come into the camera, and as soon as the dust sits on the lens, for a while it won't bother you, but then in some of these dust specks end up in the sky, and they will show as little specks. So if you don't give your camera to a shop for sensor cleaning, if you want to do this yourself, this is one way to find out if you have specks of dust. Don't get too paranoid about it. Usually they don't really bother you. But
the last trip, a whole bunch of pictures, and I started going through them, and I started seeing, there's a big blob right there. See, if you see 5 pictures in the blobs, it's on the.
It's the same on all the pictures.
It's on the sensor, and I went.
But as long as it's in the lower 2/3, that's usually where you have landscape and buildings and stuff, and you won't really notice it. If it's up in the sky, then
drives me nuts.
Hey, there's a clone tool in your Lightroom.
Yeah. So, do you clean your sensor yourself?
I do, but I wait as long as I can.
Yeah.
I'm usually spending a lot of time cloning out specs to the point where as soon as I get really annoyed, and if you give it a lot of, if you shoot with a more wide open aperture, you don't see them as much. If you shoot at f/22 or something, then you will see
they show up. I have a bulb air blower. That's the first thing. Of course, modern cameras also will shake the sensor, and then if it's really bad, I go out and buy the little swabs. And they put a little.
They do a good job.
And you just swab it off, and then you smush it around. You have to take a picture of the sky. Then you got to go back and do it again. Then you got another picture of the sky. Finally, I got it clean, but I got to remember to do that before the trip, not after the trip.
If you bought the camera at a local dealer somewhere, bring it to them, and they'll do it for you.
So we are not going to do another assignment because Chris won't be here to review it. But he wants to leave you with something to remember him by.
Well, for a while at least, I would like to give everyone. Okay, I'm going to pull out of the fishbowl. Last time I'm pulling something out of the fishbowl. 3 adjectives for you to take with you and make those into your little own photo assignments. Nothing to win, but you can win some, gain some experience. So let's do a drawing. First one is average. That's the first one.
Average.
The second one is, I like that one. Another one with A. Alive.
Average. Alive. And
then last but not least, inexpensive.
Inexpensive. They seem to go together.
And if you're really
somehow.
good, you can take these 3 adjectives and make them into a short story. How about that?
Average, alive, and inexpensive.
Yeah,
and you know what this means, Chris? This means either Rich is going to have to put you on his show, which is a possibility. I've sent him all the names of all our contributors so that he can do that. And if not, then in 3 weeks, now we're not going to start the podcast until next year, so it'll be January 8th, 16th, 23rd, January 30th. You might have to come on and give us more assignments. Can we do that?
You know where I am.
All
I'm
right.
not going anywhere.
We'll do that on the podcast. How about somebody said, well, what can't he be on the podcast? Yes, you can be on the podcast.
Sure I can. I'm a podcaster. I know how
he knows how these things work. Chris Marquardt. Now, let me tell everybody how they can go to discoverthetopfloor.com and find all of Chris's. He's got 2 exciting adventures. Do you have any spots left at all?
Yes. Well, I'm talking to several people right now, but there might be 1 or 2
filling up fast.
Just get in contact. It's on the website, discoverthetopfloor.com.
And this isn't
photo road trip.
I presume this is the beginning of you getting back into the photo expeditions. I hope it is, because I'm counting on you to do an expedition to the land where the gross national happiness is #1, Bhutan. I want to go with you there.
Bhutan is still on the list for sure.
That's my bucket list with Chris Marquardt. Of course, Sensei.photo is his photo coaching site. He is on Flickr as Nubui Nubui. And his tips from the top floor is the longest running photography podcast, still the best, tfttf.com. Chris, we'll talk next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris Marquardt. See you then. It's starting to get a little sad in here. It's starting to get a little blue. A little blue.
The fishbowl. What am I going to do?
Tire the fishbowl. It's blue.
I could make it into like a space helmet or something.
If the hole were bigger, you could. You could put it on one of your cat's heads.
Oh, yeah. Well, they are not around anymore.
And
I'll use the Dremel and open that thing up. How about that?
Very nice. Very nice.
All right.
Very nice. All right. Hey, thank you, Chris. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time.
See you next week. Take care.
Bye. Auf Wiedersehen. Yeah, my mom was a weaver Gallia. That's why I ask. I spent a lot of time with wool doing the warp. Yes. Yeah, that looks like an industrial loom. Her wool never looked so fancy. And congratulations to everyone on your excellent Advent of Code work. Now it will get hard. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Mitch is on the line for Beverly Hills, California. Hi, Mitch.
Hey, Leo. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Terrific. I got a question for you.
Yes.
I'm a lawyer, and as you know, we have legal and professional rules that require confidentiality. But all my programs that I use every day, like Office and Adobe and QuickBooks and Time Slips and Act, all want me to go to online, versions. And I'm very concerned about, the confidentiality.
And rightly so. In theory, stuff in the cloud is secure, but it is not encrypted end to end. So that means it's sitting on Apple's iCloud or Microsoft's OneDrive or Google's Google Drive, encrypted, but the keys are also next door. So if you had a malicious actor at Google or Apple or Microsoft or Dropbox, et cetera, they could see it. It's not unencrypted, but it is the keys are, held there. And if somebody broke in, they could get it. So
that's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. There isn't a HIPAA for lawyers. Maybe there should be. There's of course, in the medical profession, the Health Insurance Privacy and Portability Act, HIPAA, has legal requirements for secrecy, and very few cloud services are HIPAA compliant. Mm-hmm. And I would actually, as an attorney, you probably should consider that would be the minimum you would need as well, is HIPAA compliance. Okay. So there are, it's. Go ahead.
I fought with Microsoft for 6 months to get Office 2019 on my PC.
Yeah.
I know how hard it is.
Oh, I know. Trust me. There is, though, Microsoft has added, I think Google has also added, an encrypted subdrive on your OneDrive. And I'm sure that is intended for law firms. I have from Lex Workplace, as you know, Lex is a trustworthy source for legal information. I think it's part of LexisNexis, I'm assuming. Anyway, they have a list, which I will put in the show notes, on cloud storage for law firms.
Oh, that'd be good.
So it'd be worth seeing. I would say, it just depends on how seriously you take this. It actually is an interesting thing that just came up. As you might know, Elon Musk released yesterday, or was it the day before, the deliberations Twitter had over blocking the Hunter Biden laptop posts, chiefly posts of Hunter Biden naked. And among the materials released were memos from Twitter's chief counsel, which probably were protected.
Probably were.
Because they were memos to Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter. Presumably, as chief counsel, his communications with Jack were protected. So those were released. So that's the other thing to think about is you don't know who's going to own that cloud service tomorrow. If Elon comes along, he may not be paying much attention to, what's protected and what's not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's another issue that comes up. So, but you have to, it depends on, how seriously you take all this, who your clients are. If you had marquee clients, well-known names, so forth, there would be much more incentive for hackers to try to get this material. So the onus would be on you to work even harder to keep it protected. Is there, you tell me, is there anything like HIPAA for the legal profession?
No, you just have a duty to keep your clients confidential.
Right. My guess would be in that case, trust HIPAA compliance because it's very similar. If you were in an accounting profession and you're dealing with tax returns, exactly the same thing. People email tax returns. That is a bad practice.
Believe me, I am a tax lawyer, and I'm intimately familiar with that.
That's crazy. And you probably know this, but every time I get a communication from a lawyer, it's got a disclaimer at the bottom saying, don't read this if it's not for you. I don't know how binding that is.
I don't think it's binding.
I don't think it's binding at all. This is not intended for, if you're not the intended recipient, don't read this. Yeah, well, good luck. I just read it.
Yeah, listen, I hear people discussing lawyer-client confidentialities in loud voices where I go to on their phones. So,
get ready, because the EU has just approved the use of cell phones on airplanes. I imagine it's just around the corner for the U.S. And you know how people are on cell phones. You can hear the conversation in the entire cabin.
Absolutely.
I have, as a tech journalist, overheard many a conversation out of respect that I don't repeat. But I'm not bound not to repeat it. That guy was announcing it.
Right.
Yeah.
But what about the programs themselves? You know,
Well, that's another question. One of the things you probably noticed when you went to 2019 is Office by default stores it on OneDrive. You have to turn it off.
That's why I say I had to fight for 6 months.
All of a sudden, your stuff is being uploaded. Hey, wait a minute. What? Apple does the same thing. Apple, when you get a new Macintosh, will upload your entire documents folder, everything, to iDrive unless you say otherwise. Thanks, Apple. You have to know to turn it off. And oh, by the way, I got a new laptop from Apple, and I forgot to turn that off when I set it up. A couple of weeks later, I went, oh, shoot, I'm uploading my entire desktop and documents folder to iDrive. I turned it off, and it erased it all on my local computer. It popped up a warning, said, when you do this, you're going to erase it everywhere. Thank goodness I had a backup. For crying out loud. So you ask, I wish more, yeah, I wish more, Mitch, I wish more attorneys were like you. You back up, you care about your client's secrecy and privacy, you do what you can. Probably, if I were in your shoes, I would learn everything you could about encryption. And encryption's your best friend, because if you encrypt, for instance, let's say you've got a folder full of IRS tax forms. If you encrypt that locally using a program that does strong encryption, you can then upload it anywhere. Even if somebody broke in, even if the Dropbox people said, oh, look what we got here, they couldn't see it without, the encryption is strong. They couldn't get to it. That's probably your best friend. So I would bone up on that.
Okay, do you have a recommendation?
It really, so you're on Windows, I presume.
Yep.
For whole disk encryption, you can trust Microsoft's BitLocker. The problem with that is as soon as you log in, everything's unencrypted and then is uploaded to the cloud. So there's a program called VeraCrypt that will encrypt your drive or individual folders. That's trustworthy and open source. That's probably the best one. There are many other choices. Truthfully, zipping it and using a zip password nowadays is actually a good way to do it. Zip incorporates RSA encryption, strong encryption. So zip it, zip it good, but use a good password. Don't use monkey123 as I often do.
You remember the scene from Spaceballs, right?
Yes.
Fun.
Go ahead, act it out for us.
Yeah. Can I ask you a non-professional question?
Sure, Mitch.
About my home theater rig?
Yeah.
I have. Is there a universal remote? Because I've had two Harmonies. I've had one of those, the fancy one that's supposed to be installed by.
Nowadays, a lot of devices come with a remote. For instance, the Apple TV or the Google Android Chromecast. That actually is a universal remote that you can teach to use for everything. Harmonies were the best.
My rig is about 10 years old.
Yeah, that's the problem. Harmony was the best because they have a database of all this old gear, so you didn't even have to teach them. But they didn't go out of business, but Logitech has decided to stop making them. The Harmony one was the best for years. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I would say, yeah, it's funny. I think because everything now, I don't know, that for some reason Logitech got out of the business, and I think it's because there isn't much of a business these days for universal remotes. And I'm guessing that's because everything kind of is on streaming, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but I have a Roku, which interestingly enough, although it's RF, also has an IR function to turn on.
Yeah, the Roku's a good one. And you can teach the Roku, I think, because it's both RF. RF is preferable, obviously, because you can do it when you're in the kitchen. Trying to think of what the best. There is no good. Harmony One was the only one. What believe it or not, there is the Fire TV Cube, which has Amazon's Echo built in, is surprisingly capable. If you said to me, I want a streaming device that is going to work with all my stuff, that would be what I would say, because it has an IR blaster you can plug in and then put in your cabinet, so it'll blast infrared through the cabinet. And then you can use Amazon's Echo voice, so you can say something, turn on the 49ers game, and it will know, for that, I need to turn on the cable box, turn it to this channel, I need to turn on the TV, I need to turn on the AV receiver. It knows all of that stuff, kind of like the Harmony One did. It knows the Harmony One was programmable. You could write computer programs practically with that thing. So we have a link somebody just put in the chat room from Tom's Guide, the best universal remotes.
Okay.
So I'll put that in the chat room. I honestly don't think there's anything very good anymore. But
okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's a pleasure talking. Great questions, Mitch. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So in Canada, apparently there are regulations. That's interesting. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, virtual reality, augmented reality, or as Apple apparently wants to call it. Wait a minute, I got to look it up now because it's a strange name. Was it X reality, something like that? Apple has it's the XROS. That's right. They patented or trademarked Reality OS, and so everybody said, "Oh, Apple, when they do their AR headset, they're going to call it the operating system Reality OS." But now the news arrives, again, it's just a rumor, that perhaps it will not be till the end of next year, more than a year from now, that Apple will release these virtual reality headsets. And they think it's going to be called XR OS, which is terrible. 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 8888, ask Leo. Come on, Apple, you can do better. Back to the phones we go. Tim is on the line from Niagara Falls. Hi, Tim.
Hey, good afternoon, Leo. Great to talk to you. I want to congratulate you on your long run with the tech guy on terrestrial radio.
Thank you.
Although, since it's through the radio waves, it maybe should be called extraterrestrial.
Extraterrestrial, it is, right? Above the earth.
Yeah, for sure. I talked to you a couple months ago, and before I hang up, I wanted to give you your fantastic recommendation for your first trip to the falls.
Yes, I really want to go. We have never been. Lisa really wants to go. So maybe a second honeymoon at Niagara Falls, but I'll wait for that. Give me your question first.
Sure. I'll try to make this as concise as possible. It's pretty specific. In regards to the Apple Studio, I know when it came out and you reviewed it, you said that it was a little bit of overkill because a lot of software only uses one core at a time, and it was really overloaded.
That's changing, by the way. That was a whole year ago, and that is absolutely changing. But for a lot of people, you don't need a Mac Studio. I have a Mac Studio. My wife has a Mac Studio, and I think in both cases it's overkill. We both end up using our laptops as much or more because, you carry it around. We use it everywhere.
Okay, my question in regards to is I have a friend who's a composer who uses extensive musical software with
that's different.
Separate library drive.
That's different. Yeah. So there's an example of something that does use multiple processors. And if your friend is a composer who uses more than a handful of instruments, which I'm sure is the case, he will notice as he adds instruments, it can slow the machine down a lot. And one of the things Apple showed off with their new Apple Silicon processors is how Logic, which is their music program, can use 50, 60, 100. You could score an entire symphony without bogging down at all. And that's remarkable.
Would you also recommend maxing out the RAM for that as well?
Sure. I mean, not necessarily maxing out because I think you can go to a ridiculous 128 gigabytes. But I would get at least 32, and if you can afford it, 64 gigs. And a Mac Studio with the Ultra which is the highest range chip, is going to be the highest performance. Not cheap. We're talking about $6,000 now. But he does this professionally or for fun?
Professionally.
Yeah. So this is a tool. A, it's tax deductible. B, professionals. Apple designs these for professionals and prices them for professionals because professionals can justify this. This is going to make them money. So it's worth it. And so, yeah, that would be the highest end right now. Now, remember, Apple has gone from the M1 chip to the M2 chip and is very slowly, slower than I thought they would, rolling out upgrades to everything. We should see an upgrade to the Mac Studio next year sometime. Warn him so he doesn't go, oh, man, I just bought this. The truth is the M2 is only is maybe 10, 15% faster than the M1. If you got an M1 Ultra today, you would not be unhappy for years to come, I think.
Yeah, and I think we're going to wait a little while for the new Mac Pro. I think we've been holding off for that, but it's...
yeah, who knows when? Who knows? They said they would announce it by the end of 2022. They have not. And I guess they have a few more weeks, but I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on with Apple. It may be supply chain problems. It may also be they're right now focused on saving the iPhone because their iPhone, as we talked about at the beginning of the show, iPhone production is going through the floor thanks to unrest in China. So they may have more problems than that. But M2 is next year. There will be upgrades, and the Mac Pro will probably have, I don't know, what comes after Ultra? Extreme. They'll have an M2 Extreme chip in it.
Great. Can I give you your give you a travel plan for you?
Yeah. So Niagara Falls. Yes.
April 8th, 2024. The total eclipse is going right over Niagara Falls.
Oh! You just solved my whole conundrum. We're going on a Mississippi River cruise in the fall of 2024. If the river comes back, we don't have anything planned for the spring. Niagara Falls for the eclipse. Brilliant. Now, you're on the U.S. side, right? Would you go on the U.S. or the Canadian side?
I bet it's going to be an easier view on the American side because there's a lot more open parkland. You can probably get out there with the lawn chair.
Perfect.
And, right from the rapids.
You just gave me a very good reason to come out your way in April of 2024.
If you look it up online, you'll see the path goes right across the country and right over the falls. What an amazing experience it'll be.
It's so funny. I was looking at that demarcation line where it's totality and thinking, where should we go there? Lisa's going to be thrilled. That's great.
Fantastic.
Now, somebody told me that it's more touristy on the Canadian side. Is that true?
It's very true. It's more commercialized. It's almost like a baby Vegas on the Canadian side.
A baby Vegas. All right, Lisa, you're ready? We're going to the baby Vegas. No. We'll go to the American side. We'll go to the American side.
You can do both.
Should we do the Maid of the Mist? Should we ride the boat?
Absolutely. The Maid of the Mist, the Cave of the Winds, go to Devil's Hole. You'll have a great time.
And where do you get your barrels for going over the falls?
We just tube it.
Oh, good. All right. I'll just bring my inner tube. Good idea. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, Tim, thank you for calling. That's great. And your friend, it's really going to depend what he wants to spend. I have to say, I do everything now on an M2 MacBook Air, which is, it doesn't have a fan. It only has 24 gigs of RAM. And it is a sweet ride, as the kids would say.
For sure.
So he will be happy with no matter what. But get him to watch. When they launched the Apple Silicon, they brought out Logic, and they had, I don't know how many tracks running, and it was so impressive. And, of course, has only gotten better since. He's going to be, I imagine, I'm not sure, but Ableton and all the other programs that composers use will be also just as multi-threaded and just as powerful when you get them on a very high-end M1 or M2 Mac. Those are really nice.
Thanks for the great advice, Leo. It's an honor to talk to you, niece.
Thank you, Tim.
Waning days.
I will see you. I'll look for you in your lawn chair on April 8th, 2024.
Yeah, it'll be sparkling.
You're right. The falls, to see the falls, first sparkling in the sun and then dimming and going dark and then coming back, that's going to be a sight. I'm going to bring some cameras. That's going to be something to see. Oh, wait a minute. I'm saying this in public. Nobody should go. Stay home. Please. All right, Tim, we'll see you in Niagara Falls 2024. 8888 Ask Leo, the website. TechGuyLabs.com is the website. 8888 Ask Leo is, in fact, the phone number. Although I think I did register that as a website at one point. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls still to come. Rod Pyle, too, our space guy. Niagara Falls. Hello, Roderick.
Hello, sir. So you've completely upset my plan to go to Texas. Now I feel like a
Wouldn't
loser.
it be fun to go to Niagara Falls?
Yeah, it really would.
Jammer B will
Although,
probably go to Texas. I have
if
to
you
look
take
at
cameras, put them on intervalometers because you want to be staring at the eclipse.
not
pictures,
staring directly at it, but yeah.
No, but I mean,
join us
you
in
don't wanna
Niagara Falls. We'll go together.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
I ain't doing the barrel though, primarily because they don't make them big enough to fit me.
Dude, I imagine people still do that. Let me look at the map here.
Okay.
GreatAmericanEclipse.com.
You mean go over it in a barrel?
No, don't. I'm looking at the map to see because you want to be, if you can, where the length of totality is the longest, right? And I'm just seeing
it's along the center line.
Yeah. So it looks like actually, Niagara Falls is very close to the center line. Montreal is right on the edge.
Hey, so's Dallas, my friend. Just saying.
No, Niagara Falls is closer to the center than Dallas. You're going to get more minutes for your ecliptic dollar.
If you does it say how long it is this time?
Yeah. Let's see. Buffalo, New York. It'll be 3 minutes 45 seconds.
Yeah, that's long.
Rochester 340. Grand Falls, Island Falls. I'm just looking on this table to see if they have Niagara Falls. I think Buffalo is probably pretty close, right?
Buffalo would be kind of nice.
Yeah. No, I don't want to go to Buffalo. I want to go to Niagara Falls.
I know. You want to go to the falls.
Niagara. Let me see. Dallas is going to be 347. So Dallas would be a good place to go. Fort Worth.
Drive there.
Wait a minute. That can't be right. Wait a minute. This
it's
table's
right near the
bad.
center line.
No.
I think
This
right.
table says Dallas is 3 minutes 47 seconds. Fort Worth is 2 minutes 34 seconds. That can't be right. Fort Worth's right next to Dallas.
Well, it's a bit further. I'm looking at the map of the center line. That could be close. I don't know. I just remember seeing the 2017 one when we went up to Prineville. We were off the center line and it was shorter, but there was nobody there, and it was fantastic.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing. Everybody will be at Niagara
Falls. A few hundred
Falls.
people sitting in a park.
Yeah.
And
how many
we
people
were missing
expected to
was
visit by
bandstand.
state? Texas is number one.
Oh, really?
Oklahoma. Your best place to go would be New Hampshire.
Newfoundland.
Yeah.
Let's go to Newfoundland. Newfoundland.
Wow. 31 million people in the U.S. live inside the path of the total eclipse. That's pretty cool.
Hey, guess what I did last week?
What?
I was interviewed for Ancient Aliens. I had,
no, tell me it ain't so.
They had called in the past, and I said, no, thanks, because the show was kind of wonky. But it turns out that it was the same company that does that William Shatner Unexplained show. And I really liked them when I did those. And I thought, they were really, they let you talk about facts.
Yeah, but you haven't seen the edit yet.
No, but I made him promise, and I'm sure that's worth a quarter or maybe 50 cents.
We promise we won't make you look like you believe in aliens.
Well, you've given me all the fame I'm likely to have in my lifetime already, so I think it's okay.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
The world famous. All right, wait a minute. Let me Niagara Falls. I'm looking the totality's really good at Niagara Falls.
Lisa's probably buying the tickets already.
Alia says it's not Niagara Falls. All right. Path of the Eclipse. Rochester's right in the middle, too. So we're going to get, 3.5 is pretty good. All right, we'll talk in a bit, Rod. Little Fats Domino from 1950. Yeah, go take it, Fats. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yes, it's episode 1950, episode 1950. Yes, I started at 1, believe it or not. And that means when you go to the website, techguylabs.com, you look for episode 1950. You can get the audio, the video. You can get the links, the transcript, everything. Episode 1950. Herb next, Rancho Santa Fe in California. Hello, Herb.
Hi, Leo. To get to the point, I think you may have answered a couple questions, but I've been a MacBook Air user for years, but mine is now too old to update. But get ready to buy, and they come out with a MacBook Pro, about the same numbers, same size, close enough. And I'm just wondering, they're both M2 chips. What's the difference and how?
I would disrecommend the 13-inch MacBook Pro with the M2 chip. It is, unless you love the touch bar, it probably is the last Mac that'll have a touch bar. It's a pretty old design is what I'm saying. The M2 MacBook Air, if you like the Air, you like the lightweight, right? The thinness is no longer a wedge, it's squared. But in every respect, this is the best MacBook Air, which is their best-selling Macintosh they've ever made. I mean, it's fantastic. I own it, and I love it. If you want to save money, frankly, the M1 MacBook Air is not much less. Not much slower. It is much less, but not much slower. But don't get the 13-inch. The 13-inch generally is bad. Now, you might want to wait because in March, probably, it would be my guess, March or April, Apple will update the MacBook Pro 14 and 16 and put the M2 chip in those. Right now, they have the M1. They're due for the M2 upgrade. But the only reason to wait is maybe for a better deal on the M1 because, again, the M2 isn't massively faster than the M1. For most people, M1's plenty fast. What do you do with most of with your computer? What kind of stuff do you do?
Just local home stuff. I have dabbled in Photoshop, but
even for Photoshop, it's great. It's fine. M1 Air right now is on sale for as little as $700, $799. I mean, they've really the prices are very low because it's last year's M1. Not this year's M2.
Oh. Okay.
So my general advice, stay away from the 13. I know they put the M2 in it, but it's such an old design. It's got the touch bar. It's just not a great design. There'd be another reason. If you hate the notch, and I have to say, I'm not a fan of the notch. And all of Apple's laptops going forward, in order to put a decent camera in there, will have a notch much like the phones do. They have that. Now they have a little island, but the same idea. They have a little notch in the top. Let me see. I don't think the notch is. Maybe it is on the 13-inch. That would be maybe one other reason not to do it. Apple's. It's hard to find. I'm looking at Apple's site, and it's hard to find out if it has a notch because they don't want to even tell anybody. But if you hate the notch, that might be another reason. Otherwise, I don't really like. I think the design isn't great. I had the 13-inch M1, and I sent it back, got the 14-inch when it came out. Get the Air. The Air is the best seller for a good reason. It's a great device. Get 24 gigs of RAM if you get the M2. That's a reason to get the M2. The M1 tops up at 16 gigs. 24 is nice. A terabyte or more hard drive for sure. It's going to be more than $800, but still, that's also their most affordable. That's the one I would go with.
Does either one hook up to an external monitor?
Okay. Now you're getting complicated on me. So the Airs do not. That's another reason you might want to look at the 13-inch. The Airs are designed for just that internal monitor. You can, with some effort, get a second monitor. Honestly, if I were you, if you want an external monitor, the 14 and the 16 from last year, the M1 14 and 16s, both have HDMI ports, which makes it very easy. You can have 2 external monitors. Actually, you can have 3 technically. So you can have a lot more expandability. And to me, I really love the fact it's got an HDMI port. It's got an SD card port, so it's great for photographers. So there are more ports on last year's. This is so confusing, I know. 14 and 16 than there are on the MacBook Airs. That's the big drawback on the Airs is they only drive one monitor and they only have 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports. That's it. That's it. I'm glad you asked that. Yeah. So you want a second monitor?
Well, I have an old iMac, another 2015 computer, and I love it, but I can't upgrade the operating system anymore.
Yeah.
And just thinking it's nice to have that big monitor.
If it supports target display mode, have you used it as a monitor before? 2015, it might.
No, I've never used it separately. No.
Okay. So it may not be able to do that. Most iMacs don't. There's only a few that support something called target display mode. The 13-inch that you were talking about does support an up to 6K external display. So that if that's an important thing to you, but I don't know if you can. I would figure out first if you can use. Actually, I take it back. The MacBook Air does support one external. It's not just doesn't support 2. So if you only care about 1, you're okay. You'd have to have an adapter for it because it only has those 2 USB-C ports. So you'd have to get an adapter to drive it. And again, before you assume that your iMac can support it, you should check to see if it supports target display mode. I don't think any 2015 iMac does. So that means you can't, which is one of the reasons I'm mad about the iMac, right? You got this beautiful display. It's now out of date, and you can't use the display. Even that's frustrating.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you've left me.
I've left you hanging. I haven't given you a lot of questions. I like the Air. You can use an external display with the Air. I was wrong. You can use just one. If you want more than one, then you need a different model. The Air is very lightweight. Its biggest, lacking is it only has 2 USB Type 4 ports. Those Type C Thunderbolt 4 ports, and only 2 means you're going to live the dongle life, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Okay, great. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I probably just confused you more than solved the problem. Honestly, anybody still using Macs based on the Intel chip, this is the year. This is the year you want to move. These new Apple Silicon chips are so dang good. They're so fast. And maybe even more importantly, they're so sparing in their power use. You get incredible battery life. The Air is also the champion of battery life. All day, easy, 18 hours, no problem. Charge it when you go to bed, and you'll have it for the rest of the day. Going along a flight to Europe, no problem. And I think for some people, that's a very important factor. Low power, high performance chips, they beat Intel silly. So if you still have an Intel Mac, then 2023 is going to be the year that you're going to want to look at upgrading. And there will be many more choices at some point. We just don't know when. Apple, I thought they would do it this year, and they didn't. They're due for some M2 upgrades on all of their laptops. And where's the Mac Pro? Rod Pyle, Spaceman, coming up next. Where's the 27-inch iMac? There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd love to come and see you, but he knows you'll wonder why, or something like that.
You're just making it up.
I'm making it up as I go. Yeah.
Oh, they should have had you on for the launch of the Falcon Heavy.
Oh,
could have been the guy.
So where are we now? Where's Orion now?
Oh, it's on its. It's going to be on its way home tomorrow. I mean, it's on its way home now, but it'll do its final.
Did it do the moon flyby
tomorrow.
yet? They already did the moon flyby. Yeah.
They did the inbound flyby. They're going to do the outbound flyby tomorrow. That's I think 79 miles.
Oh, that's close.
I had that as an item for
Is it slingshotting? This is the
yeah. This is nice. So it's a big looping orbit that goes out about 40,000 miles past the moon, and then comes back and zooms right past it with a gravity grab. Fires its engines to break loose at, what do I have? Oh, I have re-entry time, 9:40 Pacific time.
It gets home really quick after it does that slingshot.
Yeah, a few days. Well, it splashes down the 11th, so it's not that quick.
Okay. Oh,
it's not as quick as the Apollo flights were, because we're in this big loopy, goofy orbit.
Loopy, goofy.
But yeah, that we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about 3D printing on the moon.
No, just
Yeah.
don't. Just don't.
No. Buildings.
3D printing buildings.
Yeah, we're making buildings.
We don't have to. We don't have to do that.
Out of a lunar sand poo.
We're gonna have aliens to help us. See, there they are.
Oh, now see, you're just not gonna let me go on that one, are you?
What? Take me to your leader.
What are you looking at?
Take me.
Oh, those are interesting exosuits.
Take me to your leader. I am here.
Those are the suits with the fabric taken off, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. Look how big those things are.
Yeah,
That's
they're
ridiculous.
pretty. On the moon it works because it's only 60% of Earth gravity. On Mars it'd be a little clunky. So
Where's that wonderful site with the thing? The site with the thing. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, the thing.
The thing with the site with the thing.
Talking about the Artemis tracking site?
Yeah, here it is. No, that's a map.
No, they had what's it called?
It's all right,
What's
I
up
can
with
do it.
Artemis or something?
I know how to use Google. I know how to use Google. I know how to use the Goog. Oh, it's Unity. Hey, Unity. Good to see you. Get ready. Here we go.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Woo! It takes a long time to get around to giving you what you're actually waiting for on this site, doesn't it? Like, oh, we got to give you the whole show. There we are.
Pew, pew, pew.
We don't need sound effects, dude.
Oh, sorry. Are there sound effects on this?
No.
I'm
grooving
like
on
the
yours.
silence? Oh, okay.
No, yours. You're the radio guy.
Oh. Look at this slingshot maneuver.
Don't make the El Kabong sound. That would be a bad ending.
Kabong.
Kabong.
So they went out. They went all the way out here. Woo. Now they're right here. There's the moon. They're going to slingshot past it.
Well, they shot past it once, went out beyond.
To go out, but they're going even closer to come in, right?
Now they're coming back. Yeah, about the same.
79 miles.
It's about the same. Which isn't as close as Apollo got. But
I got up at 5 a.m. to watch.
What?
Not, the other night when they went close to the moon before. Wasn't great. It was an animation. It was an animation.
But think of the 1960s. They had guys holding Walter Cronkite holding them. Oh, here's the lunar module.
Here's a module going around the moon.
I shouldn't even try to do Cronkite.
It's got to go around the moon.
Yes.
There's the camera, and here's the moon.
And here's Rocket Man.
And here's Rod Pyle. Look at these. These are so cool. There's the Carbon 400. What am I showing you? Our sponsor, OnLogic. This is amazing hardware. You're probably no more than a few feet from a personal computing device right now that's changed your life. Your phone in your pocket, your laptop, maybe your tablet. But there is an entire hidden world of computing that is everywhere. It's ubiquitous. And you may not even see it. They're bringing smart cities to life. They're driving sustainable agriculture out in the field. They're revolutionizing the way things are made. Almost everything's made on the factory floor. And that's where you're going to find these distinctive orange industrial embedded computers from OnLogic. OnLogic designs, these are amazing, designs and creates computing solutions that can fit in the palm of your hand while powering everything from advanced robotics and AI to manufacturing automation, digital media solutions, smart agriculture technologies. That's one of the neat things about OnLogic. They will have a computer for your needs, and if they don't have it in stock, they will design it, or you design it on their website. They're passively cooled. They're ventless. You see those fins? Nice. Internal components can be sealed, protected from dust and other airborne contaminants. You get a solid-state device, no moving parts, designed to protect against shock and vibration. Other designs can protect you against extreme temperatures, radio interference. This one, look at this. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 connections for Wi-Fi antennas. That's for a factory floor, right? Or maybe in agriculture. So you can control your sprinkler systems and your harvesting systems and all of that. Very cool. The team at OnLogic is they take pride in creating perfectly tailored solutions for unique technology challenges. Call them. Give them a challenge. They partner with leading software companies like AWS, They make an entire line of AWS IoT Greengrass compatible computers that have been approved, vetted by AWS, so you know it'll work right out of the box. If you need a computing solution that can easily be configured to your particular needs, supported by industry experts who are just a phone call, website chat, or email away, that care about your success and can get you this computer fast, the team at OnLogic is ready to help. If you'd rather do it yourself, in fact, this I would suggest anyway, it's fun to play on the OnLogic website. You can configure and order your next industrial computing device quickly and easily, and you can do it right online. All in-stock online orders are custom-built, thoroughly tested, and shipped fast in as little as 5 days. So you're just a few days away from something like this baby here. When you need a custom-configured industrial computer or an edge server, these are great servers, or panel PC delivered quickly, OnLogic should be your first destination. To get started and learn more about OnLogic's 30-day risk-free hardware trial, connect with their experts, or visit onlogic.com/twit. ONLOGIC. onlogic.com/twit. And you know what? Look for these little orange babies all over the place. You will be amazed how many you'll see, because it's the best. onlogic.com/twit. We thank OnLogic for supporting the Tech Guy show. And now, back to the radio. He's known for his love of little green men. Our spaceman, Rod Pyle's here. Hello, Rod. Author of Space 2.0, editor-in-chief ad astra, space.nss.org. That's a terrible impression.
And This Week in Space on your very own network.
Host of This Week in Space.
And this week we spoke to former astronaut Doug Hurley, who flew the shuttle and the first crewed flight of Crew Dragon.
See, people always talk about, Plastic Man and Thor. My heroes are real life astronauts. Those are the heroes. And even if it was just like a little up jump on the shuttle, that's like, you're a hero, man. You rode a giant explosive thing into the sky and went weightless. And then, of course, I met Buzz Aldrin. I interviewed him once, and I was practically on my knees. My God, you're the living epitome of the right stuff.
And you kept waiting for him to answer your question, but it never quite happened, did it?
I like
because
I like Buzz.
He has so many ideas.
Yeah,
it's like there's multiple brains trying to talk through one mouth.
I have his autograph.
The guy is so brilliant. Yeah, and
never met Neil. I would have loved to have met Neil. He's the ultimate.
What a wonderful man!
The ultimate hero.
Yeah.
So we have, we worship Superman and Batman. Dude, we have real life heroes walking the earth.
Well, and I have to say, if you're an astronaut that flew in the Soyuz, that's your personal space, that's about as close to the Mercury capsules that got, because you see those guys, they shoot down from the hatch. You see these guys in there shoulder to shoulder with their arms kind of crunched in with all this crap packed around them. And it's like, you're really flying in that thing that was designed in 1965? All right, so frosting on the moon.
Frosting?
We have a company called Icon that did the first livable 3D house in the U.S. and has now, this year actually, or next year, 2023, is going to be offering houses in full-blown communities in Texas and I guess eventually in Mexico and New Mexico. So they've been printing on the Earth for years. They just got a $57 million contract from NASA to study printing habitats and landing pads and roads on the moon. And this company's only 5 years old. The guy who founded it graduated from college in 2006. So
he's younger than my kids. That's ridiculous.
It makes me a little queasy to read that. But anyway.
Now, why do you say frosting?
Well, because... So I was working at JPL about 5 years ago, and they had a thing there called Athlete, which was an earlier version of what these guys are doing, which is a big wheeled robot with a huge arm. And one of the things it could do is attempt 3D printing. And it was pretty crude, but it basically, on the end of the arm, it's got a nozzle, just like you're doing frosting in a French bakery, and it goes and moves it along.
Sound effects not included.
If you don't get the mixture quite right, it starts to dribble and look kind of disgusting. But these guys have really nailed it. Now, in the past, the idea was always to use lunar regolith or sand and dust.
Yeah, because why bring anything with you? You've got it all there.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
But the idea was you'd bring a binder, a glue, or something to help it hold its shape. These guys have actually managed to, or are developing, a system that uses enough heat that it melts the outer layer of that tube of dust and dirt, so that it binds to the next one. So it's kind of like sintering the way you do with when you're printing 3D metal. So this solves a lot of problems. You need a landing pad, because if you land on the moon without a landing pad and you've got a habitat or, heaven forbid, astronauts nearby, all that dust you kick up becomes like buckshot and will just wipe you out. So you either need a berm or a landing pad or both. So it solves that. It'll help make berms. You need roads if you're going to be driving rovers here and there, because it's a pretty rocky surface. And you can print habitats, and because you're printing them out of soil, if you make them thick enough, they'll protect you from radiation.
Nice.
Pretty thick. I mean, we're talking like 10 feet, so it's a lot of printing. But it solves a whole bunch of problems with one technique. You're going to need a bunch of technologies within that.
Will there be a series of flights to test this? There will be, right? This is going to be a while.
Yeah, they're going to test at 0G, and then they're going to fly it, they hope, on Artemis 3, which is the first crewed landing mission.
Wow.
So that's 2027, 6, 8, 9, 30.
It's right about when the M5 chip comes out.
But there's a lot of other cool things you can do in space flight with 3D printing, and this company's looking into some of them. NASA's been looking into others. If you're printing a component for a spacecraft, instead of subtractive manufacturing, which is what they've always done, where you machine out a piece of aluminum or titanium or something, and 80% of it goes to waste. When you're printing it, you can actually print circuitry into the part. You can print channels in there for cooling. You can print in antenna components. You can make it some kind of complex lattice structure so it's lighter and stronger than just a solid piece of metal.
Well, and it's better than living in a tent on the moon.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about now is actual parts for the spacecraft, right?
Wait a minute.
So normally,
they have a spacecraft. You mean build more on the moon?
Sorry, I did a whole subject shift here. So if you're talking about,
I'm confused.
Like a robotic spacecraft going out to Jupiter, right?
Oh, yeah.
Mass is a big problem. But if you print a lot of the functionality into the parts.
Yeah, because you got a gravity well. Every pound you take into space is extraordinarily expensive and difficult.
Yeah, it's
but
nuts.
once you're there,
and slows down the journey.
If you can use, there's a lot of space rubble. If you can use that, you're golden.
Yeah, and also by printing these, if you print electronic and functional components into, say, a strut that's normally just going to hold something, now it's doing triple, quadruple duty.
Oh, sure.
So you've lowered the mass and increased the functionality and blah, 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 which is what they love to do.
Yeah.
Saves us taxpayer dollars.
Well, and also this is cool research that may have benefits at home. And,
absolutely.
A lot of times this feels like very blue sky, so to speak, research. But, hey, we have space pens and Tang, thanks to Apollo. And
Tang was around. Doggone it. Tang was around before the space program.
How about the Fisher Space Pen? Was that around?
Yeah. No, and that was developed, but I think with Fisher's money.
Yeah.
Not NASA's. Yeah.
Russian cosmonauts used pencils, and it works just fine.
Yes. Well, they were worried about the conductivity of graphite, but it turns out, like so many other things we obsessed about.
Well, you need a BIC in space. So, but I really, seriously, this kind of printing can have all sorts of valuable uses at home as well. I think that's really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when you can have multiple features within one item.
Imagine your home, your walls of your home being
cars.
printed with pipes for the water and a conduit for the electrical and the Ethernet already built into it. I mean, it's just a much better idea.
Or printing batteries into the frame of your Mach-E.
Perfect. Right. That's
and then when they don't work anymore, they can sell you a whole new car.
You get a whole new car. Sorry, we can't fix that. That's part of the car. That's integral.
Yeah.
So when are you going to be on that space astronaut alien show? Is that soon?
Ancient Aliens.
Ancient
I think it comes
Aliens.
Out not till May.
And they talked to Rod Pyle, space expert.
But I was the contextualizer of reason. So what mainly we're talking about the new NASA study, what that's going to look at, why we don't think they're extraterrestrial, but you never know. But you're right. Until the final edit's done, you don't know.
Did they get you saying yes and extraterrestrials?
No.
Okay, because if
I've learned enough from talking to people like you, not that you would do that, but just listening to how you do your thing.
I would never do that.
At moments like that, you run your words together really fast, so there's no place to make an edit. Right?
Watch Doug Hurley, or listen to him anyway, on This Week in Space this week.
Yeah.
Talking about Artemis to the moon and more, a real-life astronaut with Rod Pyle here and Tarek Malik from Space.com. Their fabulous show, This Week in Space. You can find it at twit.tv/TWIS or wherever better podcasts are stored for your download pleasure, whatever it is. Thank you, Rod.
Thank you, sir.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. One final segment still to come. Aliens exist. Yes.
Well, I think I told you my Buzz story. I was in the next edit bay where they were cutting an interview they had done with him for that show. 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And not even more than that, I think. And because it's been on forever. Or maybe it was, I'm not sure it was Ancient Aliens. It was one of those documentaries. It was definitely History Channel. And, they said, so have you ever seen a UFO? And he said, yeah, I've seen them. Just means it's unidentified. But he left that pause in there.
Yeah, I've seen him.
And they dropped the blade. And I literally walked over to that edit bay and say, guys, come on. You really can't
Buzz
do that.
Aldrin.
Like, hey, it's entertainment. I'm going, but it's Buzz. He's the god. And they
The
just
new
kinda
one,
gave me that look.
which is like number one on Netflix, is this guy saying, there probably were spacemen here on Earth or ancient civilizations that have sunk below. That's just such
Atlantis.
BS. Atlantis.
Yeah.
Such BS.
Well, it's all that. Remember Eric Von Däniken when we were young?
Eric Von Däniken.
Everybody read
Chariots
that book.
of the Gods.
And you looked at it and you thought, really? You stretch it, dude. You're really stretching here. Oh, it's absolutely true. But the layperson loved it, right?
Yeah. Just adds to the mush in the brain pan. There's already too much of.
Yeah.
We need mush extractors, not mush adders. They're building, what do you call it again when they slurry it out? Icing on the cake.
Additive manufacturing.
Additive manufacturing.
So, how many more episodes do you have of radio?
This is countdown is 5.
5
Next
more,
week 4, then 3. The week after, then 2, then 1. So there's 4 more after this one. There's 4 shows and 15 minutes left.
Okay, last one's going to have to be a big blowout.
December
coming to our
18th.
party.
No. This is why I didn't want,
I know.
Premier forced my hand. This is why I didn't want to tell anybody, because what I was going to do is on December 18th, in the waning minutes of the show, I was going to say, well, this is my last tech guy. Bye. Hope I see you somewhere around. Bye.
Right.
No, because I don't want, I don't know.
So now you're going to have to wonder what all us.
I know that they're going to. I know Lisa's going to bring
a
a marching band in or something. I know.
I wouldn't worry about your staff. I'd worry about us.
Well, no, you can say nice things, but you don't have. But don't make a production out of it. But remember, we're still trying to serve the audience up to the very last second.
I know. I'm just kidding.
And it doesn't serve the audience to go all mushy about me. Especially
but I might have my Labrador sit in my lap and
you can do whatever. You can have a sad Labrador. Yeah, that's fine. You can have your sad Labrador moment. No, it's fine. I don't mind that. And the problem is, in a way, that it gives the people the impression I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And all I'm really doing is quitting my day job. So
right. The nerve of some people wanting to enjoy their lives on the weekends. I mean, really.
I'm still going to work my butt off on Sundays.
I know.
But I am looking forward to it. I will have Thursday, Friday, and Saturday off. Just imagine the things I can do.
So Sunday will be still a call-in show.
Sunday, I'm going to do this exact same show with Micah.
Okay.
And then I'm going to do Twit. So my Sundays are going to still be my big show. But,
okay, so I can call in regularly and try and fool you that.
Yeah, well, what we had thought we would, what we thought we would do is like, well, if anybody asks a question about any one of the subject matter experts, what we'll do is we'll say, oh, great, ask that question. And we will get them on the horn during the week, and you'll get your answer next week. And then so I would send you this question, and then you could answer it and record it, just on your phone, you record an answer. Yeah. And we'll also get you on live because, and you're never going anywhere because you're This Week in Space. But you are leaving now. Oh, thank you so much for letting me be your tech guy on the radio. Thank you to Professor Laura, musical director. Does such a good job spinning the discs. Thanks to Kim Schaffer, the phone angel. She's the one who gets you ready for your appearance on live national radio. Thanks for those of you who take that chance, who call in and get on the air. And, of course, thanks to all of you who listen. All of you are vital to this operation. Me, I'm just the guy here who sits here and pulls the strings. But I will be back next week. 4 more shows before I retire from the airwaves. Rich DeMuro will be taking over. His first show will be January 8th. So we will have some, we don't like to call them reruns, best ofs for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And then... right, Laura? You're going to do all that. Laura does all that work. She pulls from old shows, mixes it up in their little salad spinner, chops it up, puts it out on the air. And then all new shows starting with Rich DeMuro, KTLA's Rich on Tech. Very exciting. He's on January 7th will be his first episode. Let me get that right. January 7th. Meanwhile, back to the phones we go. To Charlotte, North Carolina, and the Astro Nerd. Hello, Astro Nerd.
Hello, Leo. You were talking about the eclipse a while ago.
Yes.
And you were wondering why Fort Worth is only, 2 minutes and 35 seconds. And then Dallas is 3 minutes and 51 seconds.
So I went to a website called The Great American Eclipse or something like that.
There's
a better one.
There's a better one for calculating these timings.
Give me the better site.
It's called MrEclipse.com.
Okay.
It's run by the guy who used to do all this stuff for NASA.
Oh, well, Mr. Eclipse.
On the MrEclipse.com website, you scroll down and you'll find the...
totality. I want the Great American Eclipses of 2024. We're talking by about 2 years from now. Yeah. So is there a map? Is there a totality map somewhere?
On MrEclipse.com, it will show you a Google map with the
perfect
the eclipse,
perfect,
the center line, the edge lines, and if you go from the center line towards the edge line, you keep getting shorter and shorter and shorter durations. That's why Fort Worth is a whole lot shorter than Dallas.
But I thought Fort Worth was practically next door to Dallas. They share an airport.
Well, here's a good thought experiment. If you're right on the edge of the totality area, you could have 1 foot outside of the eclipse and 1 foot inside the eclipse.
That's true.
And
I believe that. Yeah.
You could also be standing with your feet inside the eclipse and your head is high enough to be outside of the eclipse, and you won't see any totality.
Well, that's no good.
But your feet will.
How? So when they show these maps, it's a ribbon that goes across the kind of diagonally across the United States, like Miss America's sash. In the middle,
correct.
The line down the middle, the median there is the longest totality, right? And then it gets shorter and shorter as you go to the edges. How wide is that ribbon? Do you know?
Oh,
I wonder.
From Fort Worth to Palestine, Texas, that's maybe 150 miles.
So it's pretty wide. But Fort Worth is on the edge, is what you're saying. It's right on the edge.
Fort Worth is right on the edge, but Austin, Texas is right on the edge, and San Antonio is right on the edge. In fact, half of San Antonio won't see totality, but the other half will.
Well, that's going to be a problem. Everybody's going to run over to the other side, and San Antonio is going to develop a list. All right, that's good to know. All right.
There's another there's another thing you were talking about where you're going to go, Niagara Falls. You got to remember that from the border of Texas and Mexico all the way up to where it goes off the edge of the earth, the weather will get more and more iffy.
Yeah. We were in, what was this, many years ago, maybe 10 years ago, we were in Cairns, Australia for the total eclipse down there. We were actually on a boat, and it got cloudy, and that kind of will spoil the total eclipse. So you think it'd be better to be in Texas where there's unlikely to be any clouds?
It will be better to be in Texas for those two reasons. One, it would be unlikely for clouds, and two, the further south you go on that center line, the longer the eclipse gets.
Ah, like that too. Now, where are you going to go, Mr. Astro Nerd?
I will be somewhere south and a little east of Dallas on the center line.
Nice. Because you want to, have you done this before? Have you chased eclipses before?
I've seen 6 total.
Wow. Wow.
And I barely escaped by the skin of my teeth in France, standing on the English Channel. It was clouded out all the way up until the time the moon finally covered the sun, and then we got to see totality. But it was close.
That would be, you go all the way to do this. We were on a cruise ship with Lawrence Krauss from Arizona State, very well-known theoretical physicist, and I remember him after the eclipse. He was hopping mad at the captain. He said, "Dude, we're watching the eclipse and you moved the boat." And the captain said, "Well, it was going to get cloudy, and I was just trying to stay somewhere where you could see it."
That happened to us in Mazatlan, Mexico, back in '91.
Yeah,
we were on a cruise, and Mazatlan was socked in, and about 60 of us got together and talked to the captain and said, "Well, if you don't take the ship out, we will sink it here in the harbor."
People take these things a little seriously, don't they?
Yeah. We went out to the Gulf of Cortez, or whatever, Sea of Cortez, whatever that is between Baja and Mexico.
Yeah.
And we saw almost 7 minutes of totality.
Oh, isn't that wild?
One of the longest ones you can get.
Isn't that wild? I would love to see that. Well, I wish you well. I mean, we are, almost 2 years away from this, but I wish
a little
less than 2 years, rather, because it's April of 2024, April 8th. But I wish you well on April 8th. So you're saying if you go to Niagara Falls, maybe be prepared for some cloudy weather. It might not be the ideal viewing. Maybe you should go down to Texas, is what you're saying.
That is correct.
Thank you, Spencer, our astro nerd. And he recommends MrEclipse.com. One last call before we go. Kevin on the line from Missoula, Montana. Hello, Kevin.
Good afternoon, Leo. Hey, Leo,
Yes,
just
sir.
to brief you on what we got here. I got Samsung television, 2 Samsung television tablets in the family, a couple Samsung phones. Under your advice, I went and upgraded from an S10 Samsung Galaxy to an S22.
Very nice, aren't they? Nice phones. Yep.
Yep. And what happened is I'm trying to get my audio files to play on my from the Samsung 10 to the 22. When I transferred, it says I can't open up my audio files, and that I have to go to the Samsung Music or the Spotify to open up my downloaded.
What kind of files are the audio files?
I think they're the MP files.
MP3s.
MP files.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I would, you don't have to get the Samsung or Spotify apps. There are many Android MP3 players. I guess there's something about that MP3. You must have a music player on there, right?
Yeah, it says I tried to open up the audio, and it says audio will not open.
Yeah, so there's something about that. There are a number of very good MP3 players available, most of them free on the Google Play Store. I would just go look for another MP3 player. Maybe those MP3s are too high quality or too low quality for the existing device to play. You don't have to use Samsung or Spotify. There are many, many other choices. Hey, thanks for the call. Thanks for listening, everybody. Leo Laporte, your tech guy. Have a great geek week. It's kind of funny. I would, maybe there's something about it that are they very, where did you get these MP3s? Do you know?
Well, I had them. I've recorded them off my old USB turntables, and I've had them on my old Samsung phones. And so, let's see here. Let me open up my.
And they played in the old phone just fine.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. You open up audio files, and now it just seems like they want you to open up. So I go to my. Let's see here. I'll go to my.
So we know there's a couple of things we know that they are not copy protected. So that's good. You should be able to play it with any MP3 player. Here's one that's free that is pretty good, that you might want to go to the Play Store and download. You don't have to use Spotify or Samsung. They're saying that, A, because they're Samsung, B, probably because they get a kickback from Spotify. But there's a free one called AIMP, that is in the Google Play Store. It's safe to download. It plays almost every kind of music I can come up with. So I'm gonna say if it doesn't play it, maybe they're damaged in some way. But I think that's just Samsung trying to get you to download their music app.
Right. So I used to go to like Samsung, open up Samsung, go to My Files, and then go to your audio files.
And if you open it, whatever the default, just like on a PC, whatever the default player is will open.
It doesn't say what player it is. It just shows my audio files and my artists that I have.
And when you tap it, it says, "I can't play this."
Let's see here. I'll just do this one. Let's do some Boston here for you. So I'll open up Smokin'. It says, no, you got to open it with Samsung Music, Spotify, or YouTube Music.
They're wrong. All of those are commercial programs. And I think that's a mistake. Install AIMP, which is an extremely powerful player that plays every format I've ever seen. And when you install it, it should, as part of the installation process, say, would you like me to take over playing your MP3 files? And you say, yes, please. Probably the easiest thing to do would be to open AIMP and tell it where those files are, and it will then import them all, and then you can use AIMP as your music player.
Now, I have an external hard drive, Western Digital external hard drive. I downloaded all those audio files on there. But a real quick question, if I can ask you, Leo.
Sure.
I've done the OneDrive, and I've done the Google.
Yeah.
I currently have the Google, and then also I have the Samsung Cloud. And I kind of feel like I'm kind of confused, but I feel like I got so much going on. I don't know what I should be using since I'm a Samsung Android.
I would use Android. I would use a Google solution. Samsung has a history of discontinuing its solutions. They used to have a Milk Music system. They discontinued it. I would say go with Google. They're most likely to be around the longest.
Okay.
So Google One, and Google One's a great deal. It works with everything. The other advantage is if at some point you said, man, I want to get an iPhone, Google would continue to work. Samsung would not.
Okay. Alrighty. I guess I'm just going to do Google One and stay with Google One.
I would stay with Google One. It's a good price. It's got great services. It's what I use. I think it's great.
Okay. Thank you, Leo.
Hey, great pleasure talking to you. Take care, Kevin. Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.